Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Market Open. We are live. It is Friday. Yes, I'm a little late. I'm sorry, but we're here. I can't believe it's Friday, dude. Last night on the market close, I couldn't even believe it was Thursday. I feel like I didn't know it was Thursday. And then towards the end of the day, I was like, wait a second, it's Thursday? But it was Thursday. And now it's Friday. And now we are getting ready to end out what will be the third week of Q3. And as we end it out, we are going to get ready to start the fourth week next week, which will be the official last week of July. And then we're heading into August. I mean, time is moving by very fast. And this week, we obviously had a market that was also moving very fast. We're going to see how we end out the week. S&P 500 is basically at all-time highs in the pre-market. Hopefully, we can keep that. We did hit 636 on the S&P 500 yesterday. Right now, we're at 635.36. And then we had a lot of volatility throughout the rest of the week. Obviously, Tesla and Google were the big earnings that we had this week. Tesla is up in the pre-markets a little bit because of rumors that San Francisco will be getting Robotaxi rollout not 3 months from now, not 5 months from now, but next week. So we'll go deeper into that. That's what's getting the stock to get some momentum. I mean, this is the nature of Tesla, right? You have a bad earnings, you have a bad Elon on the call, not that excited, stock tanks, and then boom, they're like, hey, Robotaxi, San Francisco, might be coming out next week, and then stock ends up getting some momentum. So we'll see if that rumor has any legs to it and if it can actually move the company forward. Palantir right here, 154.77 the pre-markets. Palantir, we've got earnings coming up in 2 weeks. This one's been kind of rock solid around that 148 to 155 range, and I don't think anyone can complain, trading at all-time highs. We do have a new analyst upgrade on Palantir to $170 from Piper Sandler. We'll talk about that and go deeper into why they upgraded Palantir. You got Robinhood that's been kind of chilling at $100 all week. It has been down from 110, but holding 100. SoFi 2154. They've got earnings next week. Grab. We do have some updates on Grab, and we'll talk about them in a second at 532. Google right here at 192 has not really been able to make a move since earnings, but nonetheless, Google at least holding the 190s. And then you got NVIDIA at 173. AMD was at 165 after hours yesterday. Right now it's at 164. I don't know if there was any massive news, but it's holding 160, which is nice to see. And you got AMD in the pre-markets going green. So we got a lot to talk about. We got a lot to get into. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I still feel like time is moving by way too fast. Like, it's not just me, right? Does anyone else feel like July is basically over and it's just way too quick? Yes, Google did get that $1.2 billion multi-year contract from ServiceNow. That didn't really move the stock yesterday, but that is a nice deal that I got yesterday. I am not growing a beard again. I just have been so busy this week. Like, I just haven't gone and got a haircut. I probably will do that today because I should do that. But dude, life is just moving fast, bro. Yeah, it's currently right now time. And currently right now, everything is moving way too fast. Having said that, not only are things moving way too fast, wait until you have kids. Yeah, I can only imagine, dude. I can only imagine. Because when you have kids, right? It's like they probably grow up so quick. It's like you thought they were just a baby and now they're like going to high school or something. So that's got to make you feel like life's moving fast as well. Life's moving fast, but also life feels like a simulation. Why does life feel like a simulation? Well, for those that haven't seen it, I'm going to play it again, and or I'm going to play it for you. And for those that have seen it, it's worth watching again. Yesterday, I didn't know we would get this type of content, but we have a content in chief, and it really makes it feel like life is a simulation. Folks, this was Trump and Jay Powell meeting at the new Federal Reserve building.
I think we hear the president. Let's tune in.
With the chairman, as you know. Chairman, come on over. And we're just taking a look at what's happening. You know, it's a tough construction job. They're building basements where they didn't exist or expanding them, and a lot of very expensive work. There's no question about it. And Tim has been with me for a long time, and you're in charge of the committee.
Indeed. One of the reasons I wanted to see it was the overruns of the expenses, wanted to figure out why.
Yeah. So we're taking a look, and it looks like it's about 3.1 billion. It went up a little bit, or a lot. So the 2.7 is now 3.1.
I'm not aware of that.
Yeah, it just came out.
As you can see, Powell starts defending himself. He's like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. And then it turns into what really feels like a surreal situation that we're all looking at.
Yeah, I haven't heard that from anybody at the Fed.
Yeah, it just came out.
Our notes had it about 3.1 as well.
3.1.
3.2.
This came from us.
And then Powell, looking at this document, has become a meme on X. Attach any caption you want to it, but I mean, like, it is just hilarious.
Yes. I don't know who does that.
You're including the Martin renovation. You just added
our entire capital.
Yeah, you just added in a third building. Is what that is. That's a third building.
Well,
including
no,
the
but
Martin building.
it's a building that's being built.
No, it was built 5 years ago. We finished Martin 5 years ago.
It's part of the overall work.
But it's
So,
not new.
So we're going to take a look. We're going to see what's happening, and it's got a long way. Do you expect any more additional cost overruns?
Don't expect them. We're ready for them, but we have a little bit of a reserve that we may use, but no, we don't. We expect to be finished in 2027. We're well along, as you can see.
Nice to take these off every once in a while when we're not under too much danger. So, any questions?
Mr. President, does the issue give you any?
As a real estate developer, what would you do with a project manager who would be over budget?
Generally speaking, what would I do? I'd fire them.
Do you think this issue, Mr. President, gives you cause to do that?
Well, I'm here just really with the chairman. He's showing us around, showing us the work. And so I don't want to get that. I don't want to be personal. I just would like to see it get finished. And in many ways, it's too bad it started. But it did start. And it's been under construction for a long time. It's going to be a real long time because it looks like it's got a long way to go.
Yes, sir.
So.
President, are there things the chairman can say to you today that would make you back off some of the earlier criticism?
Well, I'd love him to lower interest rates. Other than that, what can I tell you? The country is doing really well. I just briefed the chairman on the deal we made with Japan. Japan is putting up $550 billion in order to lower their tariffs a little bit.
All right. So as you can see, that last thing he did is he said, I want him to lower interest rates. Then he pats him on the back. And then Jay Powell kind of smiles, but realistically, Jay Powell's just like, why the hell is this guy even touching me? It was just wild, bro. Absolutely wild. I could not believe we were going to actually get them together. Most presidents don't visit the Fed chair. It's only happened 3 times in history. And we don't usually see it televised like that. So the fact that it was a media opportunity for Trump and he took it as a media opportunity, which is what Trump tends to do in terms of embracing the media and trying to get people's attention, which is why I think he is the content in chief. He took advantage of the opportunity. And yeah, it was definitely cringe because Jay Powell is over there smiling while Trump's patting him on the back. I mean, the memes of this have been, I think, better than anything that has come out all year. This is what Brett, who's a friend of the channel, posted yesterday. My financial advisor seeing my whole net worth in Palantir and Rocket Labs. Like, this is just, I feel like this is going to last for a couple months, bro. I feel like this meme is going to last for a couple months. But what is the actual takeaway from this, right? What is actually going on here? I think the interesting thing about Trump is that, he talks a big game on Twitter and he'll like say all these aggressive things, call you all these names. But then in person, he turns into more of a human that's not going to like aggressively say, hey, I'm going to fire this guy and put him out somewhere and like get rid of him. And it turns more into like, all right, if they're going to do this, they're going to do this. And so after this happened, he tweeted and said, although I don't want the Fed to have started this renovation, it was a great honor to tour the renovation. And then he said, as long as they get it done quickly, it will be finished ASAP. And hopefully we can move forward from there. So it's almost like there was a little bit of a taco on this whole renovation thing, because it's not like he actually confronted Jay Powell to get to stop renovating. It's like, all right, you're going to do the renovation. All right, let's get it done with and let's move forward. My only concern here is, was there anything done in that meeting that got Jay Powell closer to getting us the rate cut? And Trump did have a private meeting with Jay Powell after, or I think before they went in front of the media. And the question is, was he able to convince him on, if the rate cut would happen? And I don't know. I mean, we're going to find out. We have the FOMC meeting next week, and we'll get a better picture of what's going on. Probabilities are a 97% chance that we don't get a rate cut September. We actually have a 62% chance on September, so that's up from 58% this week, which is a bit more green to the upside. But yeah, September is going to be the determining factor. Again, we shared that video yesterday where Basent was saying, hey, I have breakfast with Powell every week, and I have been having breakfast with Powell for the past basically like 4 months, and I haven't been able to convince him that 25 basis points is not going to hurt the economy. I think what really will convince Powell for September, because again, it is not guaranteed we get that rate cut in September, and I think the market's in for a rude awakening if we don't get that rate cut in September. Maybe we kind of double up in October to make up for it, but more likely than not, I think we do get it, given all the different Fed presidents. Like Waller wants to get the rate cut, and they would be willing to vote for it even in July. But if we can get deals done between now and the end of August, which August 1st, that deadline is 6 days away, and we got a lot of countries that are going to get hit with 35 to 40% tariffs if we don't get a deal done, then I think Powell feels more likely to say, hey, the risk to inflation is not that high. Pound share, by the way, 155.22, that is up in the pre-markets. And maybe that's what gives us the deals or gets us the rate cuts. But Bank of America has come out every single month in their equity macro analysis report that they put out to their clients, and they said, we don't think we're getting a cut. There's a couple of other analysts that think the same. The also other risk is, let's say we get a rate cut and the 10-year doesn't budge, right? Because one of the main reasons why we want the rate cut is for this very stubborn bond to start yielding lower rates. And if that doesn't happen, which when we cut rates last time in September of 2024, we actually had the yields go up because of other inflation expectations, that would also not be the best when it comes to refinancing our debt for the long term. So you need a lot of things to take place. I think Trump knows this. You can't fire the Fed chair because Trump also knows that's going to create a lot of instability in the market. So you really just need to be able to work with Powell and get him to start cutting rates on a regular basis. The question is if that's possible. And by the end of the year, I think we're going to have a better understanding on if that plays out. And so we'll see. The other, concern is, again, this Japanese deal. Trump keeps saying that $550 billion is what the Japanese are investing in. And 90% of the profits the United States is going to keep. I am still confused exactly how Japan conceded to giving us 90% of the profits on a $500 billion. Either they're not investing $500 billion, or Japan sucks at negotiating, or maybe we gave them something else that we don't know about yet that made them say, all right, fine, you could have 90% of the profits if we can get this. And, hopefully we'll get more clarity on that going into the future as well. So that's what we got on tariffs. Scott Bessent did meet with the South Korean prime minister 3 days ago, and he met with the Singapore prime minister yesterday. So we are making a little bit of progress in other parts of the world in terms of at least beginning some conversations. So hopefully we'll get an understanding of if we get deals done soon across those other regions as well. So let's get into some of these other stocks that we got going on. First of all, Palantir. Let's look at the upgrade this morning. Palantir, I think maybe it's up a little bit because of that upgrade. Piper Sandler, better late than never, but they are now on the bandwagon, and they believe that it's time to initiate coverage on Palantir, meaning this is the first time they've ever put out a report on Palantir. Here's what they said. We have monitored Palantir for over 5 years, from its days as a coveted late-stage private company through its direct listing in September 2020 into the throw of disillusionment in late 2022 when the stock plummeted to $6 lows on eroding confidence in multi-year 30% growth aspirations, and now into the recent rise of the Phoenix movement, where Palantir has been crowned an AI all-star on accelerating growth. Before I go any further, remember, this is also why retail investing is not the dumb money. I mean, these guys have said, we have monitored Palantir for over 5 years. Well, why didn't you initiate coverage 5 years ago? Why didn't you initiate coverage last year when the stock was $16? It's because the analysts sometimes don't know as much as people think they know, right? Retail was buying it at 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 15, 20, 30, and Piper Sandler was just watching it go by. And now at 150, they're like, hey, we think it can go to 170. So there is a nuance to some of these generational companies that the big guys, the smart money, quote unquote, can't really see, and retail just happens to have the edge. No doubt, Palantir carries a rich valuation premium and remains a high-risk investment, but it also has a one-of-a-kind growth and margin model that, if proven durable, could grow into a $24 billion run rate business by calendar year 2032 via share gains across $2 trillion total addressable markets. We view Palantir as a secular winner in AI and initiate with an overweight rating with a $170 price target. Given the stock's hyper volatility with a dozen 20 to 29% drawdowns, we recommend investors be patient and take a buy on a drawdown approach to build new positions. So there you go. Basically, they're like, hey, it's going to 170, which would be closing in on basically 400 billion as a market cap. Right now, it's at 350, and they initiate coverage. I mean, I think Palantir's one-of-a-kind business model is what we're going to see over and over again start to get valued by the analysts in a real way. Because at some point, yes, like if the stock was at 100, maybe they wouldn't say initiate 170, but the stock's at 150. And if it shows resilience, even into the 130s, 140s after earnings, if that's the dip, or if it potentially can hold 150, maybe even inch up to 160, that's where the analysts have to say, all right, I need to at least put out a price target right now, because if it doesn't tank back to 100, and if you don't think it's going to tank back to 100 simply because there's too much demand and liquidity in the name, then it's probably a buy with the expectation that it's going to go to 170. This is how the analysts think. And the good thing for retail investors, if you are holding a decent chunk of Palantir, is now you have Piper Sandler pump your bags versus you needing to really do anything. And there you go. That's what you got on Palantir at 170. So that is the new price target on Palantir. Here is the update on Tesla. Apparently, that is why we are hitting 308 in the pre-markets. Tesla bottomed at 300 yesterday, which 300.41, not too bad. I mean, it looked like it was ready to go below 300, but then you had a lot of buyers step in. This is what Insider is reporting. Tesla tells staff it plans to roll out its Robotaxi service in San Francisco this weekend. Tesla told some workers in plans to launch its Robotaxi service in the Bay Area. Robotaxis will have a safety monitor in the driver's seat with full access to the brake and steering wheel. The California DMV said Tesla has not secured a permit for driverless testing. So this will be very similar to the Austin rollout, where they will have someone inside of the car with you. Now, again, we don't know if it's actually going to happen. This is a report. It might not take place, but if they are rolling it out in San Francisco this weekend, that would be pretty cool. That doesn't mean the stock has to go up, but it does mean that, hey, Robotaxi is expanding, and the expansion of it is happening in a rather rapid pace. I mean, if you can get Austin in 1 month, San Francisco in the next month, and then maybe next month you start expanding it to Nevada. We had those rumors come out a couple of days ago as well. I mean, that's not bad. It's definitely not bad, even if it's not driverless yet, because eventually it will be, and then it'll be a lot better of a situation for consumers. So yes, it's not driverless yet. It's still supervised. Eventually we'll get there. It's not at Waymo's level yet. But again, the product focus that Tesla's having should be differentiated from Waymo, and we're going to see if that ends up playing out. Tesla right here, 307.41. That's up about 0.7% in the pre-markets. NVIDIA 173, S&P 635, Hoodie 101.48. Where is HIMS? HIMS is 57.38. There is an update on HIMS as well. Let me pull that up right here, and then we'll talk about Oscar. So HIMS has hired Ankit Patel as a senior vice president of engineering. Previously, he was at Foursquare, AWS, and Cruise. HIMS continues to hire. They hired a chief AI officer. They took one of the VPs of Robinhood and brought them to the company as a chief product officer. And now they're hiring a senior vice president of engineering. All of these people, deep tech history. Yes, it is also Chris's cousin. And it looks like HIMS is starting to really invest deeper into some of these technology positions, which I think is pretty important. The stock, again, I think the stock jumped the other day, primarily based on the fact that it's sold short, and because it's sold short, you're getting a lot of momentum from the people that on Wall Street Bets that are thinking, hey, this is the next meme stock that could run. HIMS is just not a meme stock. I mean, even if HIMS were to double, HIMS to 100, it would still be cheap. It would be a $22 billion market cap, doing way more revenue than something like Rocket Lab that's at 25, 26 billion. So I don't think it would be crazy to see if it could get the run. The question is just like, will Wall Street Bets give it the momentum? And we playing out. Speaking of momentum, here is the chief brokerage officer at Robinhood, who was asked about these momentum meme plays, and if he thinks that there's actually a real GameStop 2.0 mentality, or if it's just people kind of having fun with some of their profits.
Those names have appreciated so much. They're taking some of those gains and saying, all right, what else is interesting? What's volatile? What brings me a little comfort around this is we're not seeing crazy volumes in these, at least from a retail standpoint on Robinhood. And they're also very low dollar notional. So, people are taking small amounts and just, playing with these because they're interesting and they're what's being discussed.
Do you think we could have a run like a GameStop again?
I don't prognosticate, so I'm not sure what's going to happen. But the way that it appears to be happening is they sort of come into favor and then, get replaced in a timeline that doesn't really give them same ability to run in the way they have before.
Steve,
I also think sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say the one other thing that's been quite fascinating to me is, that some of these traders, and they're talking about it on Reddit and other places, they're just asking ChatGPT which one of these has the most short interest, which one of these has the most propensity to run. And so on a larger scale, a retail trader is always looking for an edge. And so when they find new tools and abilities to help them, do research or look for opportunities, they're now using what's now available and wasn't available in 2021 or other times. And
so Steve Quirk kind of saying, hey, this is people just playing with fun money. It's not a sort of movement against or for the real meme stocks again. And I think that's kind of true as well. I mean, if it was a real movement, I think Open Door would start seeing a lot more momentum than being stuck at this 250 level. GameStop happened rather quickly. I mean, it took a couple months, but then it actually exploded. And then there was like a real underlying thesis there, and GameStop was short also 150%. Open Door, I mean, if it doesn't get back to that $4 or $5 range again, like, is there really a movement here that can start encapsulating a lot of people's attention? Because once the movement dies out, once the interest dies out, people take their fun money and they go somewhere else. They go to American Eagle or DNUT or GoPro or something like that. So from his perspective, he said, hey, the people on Robinhood, they're playing with it. It's fun money. It's not really replacing the volumes on things like NVIDIA or Tesla, which is good to know, because that means not everyone is gambling on it. And if they are gambling on it, it's more so just for fun. We have some quotes from Trump. I don't know where he's talking. I don't see him live, but here are 3 quotes that we have right now. He said, there's a 50-50 chance of making a deal with the EU. And then he said on Powell, I got the impression yesterday from Powell that he might be ready to lower rates. Got the impression that he's ready to lower rates. He's obviously talking somewhere. He's not tweeting. I don't see him live anywhere, so we'll probably get some footage in a bit. But those are the couple quotes we got from Trump right now. I mean, 50-50 chance on making a deal with the EU. I think that's more like 90-10. They're going to get a deal with the EU. That will happen. The EU has introduced their own set of tariffs if they were not to get a deal. I think both of them are just negotiating hardcore right now. But an EU deal before August 1st likely would make the markets very happy. And then if we can get South Korea, Mexico, Canada, and a more meaningful deal with China in the books, I think the market would be able to recognize that as well. Rock Lab right here in the pre-markets, 47.65. ASTS diluted shareholders yesterday by about 500 million. The stock was down 10%. Now it's down 7%. Not too bad. I mean, at the end of the day, this is a company that has had its share price double in the past month. And for them to raise some capital, I don't think is the worst thing in the world, especially with shareholders believing so deeply in their mission. So that one down 7%. Maybe it dumps further when the market opens, but not as bad as it was yesterday after hours. So there you go. All right, cool. So we talked about Palantir. We talked about Tesla. We talked about some of the movements on those names. Crypto. Why did crypto puke yesterday? It looks like this. We had someone from 2011 wake up last night and sell 14,000 Bitcoin. So you had, I think, around 450 million of shorts get liquidated last night as well, or longs get liquidated as we saw Bitcoin go down. And then you had people actually waking up from wallets years ago that decided to sell, and that created some pain. So I don't know at this point if it matters. I mean, like, yes, it will create a short-term, candle on Bitcoin. It fell from 119 to 115 at one point. Right now it's back above 116. But I think it is what it is. I mean, you're going to have people that are ready to buy that Bitcoin. Michael Saylor is raising about 2.5 billion via his new preferred equity. So next week he will be buying a lot more Bitcoin, and you're going to have someone ready to take up that demand, even if a wallet from 2011 that bought Bitcoin at 50 cents is selling it. Ethereum right here at 3,700. MicroStrategy stock, that one is at 405. Now, MSTR, I did a deep dive last night with Jeff Walton, who's kind of like the king of MSTR. I thought it was a really good deep dive. I had a greater appreciation for MSTR in general from what I heard last night. And the thesis I've always had on MSTR is very simple. If you're going to pay, and I don't own it, I own Misty. I'm not like heavy into MicroStrategy, but I do have respect for it, because if you're going to pay 30 times for Apple's earnings, you're assuming in the future Apple will grow, right? That's the only reason you would pay 30 times the net income of Apple in market capitalization for wanting to own Apple. Well, on MicroStrategy, why are you paying 2x NAV on their Bitcoin? Because you believe they will do something with that Bitcoin that will be value accretive to shareholders that own that Bitcoin, just like Apple would create new products or services that would be value accretive to their earnings growth, which is why you pay the multiple on it. And you believe that Bitcoin will go up, just like you believe Apple's earnings will eventually go up. And that's what justifies a multiple. Now, the pushback here is that Apple has real products and services, yada, yada. I get it. But then if you have an actual thesis on Bitcoin and you believed it's programmed to go higher based on the variety of arguments you can make around that, MicroStrategy is just a levered bet against it. That's all it is. And so, although I'm not heavy in it, I do have respect for Saylor and for those that are in MicroStrategy. And a lot of people have had their lives changed. And the more Bitcoin they accumulate, if Bitcoin continues to go higher, then MSTR continues to gain momentum. And the leverage products inside of MSTR as well adds the volatility, which is ultimately what's necessary for MicroStrategy to be attractive. HIM's right here, 5750, that goes green. So if you haven't watched that deep dive, I think it's worth checking out. Ethereum as well, we did that deep dive on Wednesday, getting a little bit ETH pilled as well, 3,700 on Ethereum. Now, BitMine yesterday kind of was flat. Today, it's up a little bit in the pre-markets. SBET as well took a beating yesterday, down 10%. That's up 5%. And then BTBT, another Ethereum treasury, that one is also flat in the pre-markets. Intel had their earnings, and the earnings weren't the best. That stock is, wow, down 7%. It was actually up 7% for like 20 minutes before it tanked. Yeah, the main problem with Intel is they missed on EPS by 1,100%. The reason for that is because they had to take a goodwill impairment charge and a tax issue. So that's why the street wanted them to put up a cent of profit. They put up negative 11 cents. I mean, long term, Intel's guidance has not been the best. They cut the dividend. There's so many issues with this company. It's been a phenomenal trading stock. I had a friend yesterday who made $132,000 yesterday off trading the stock after earnings, which was very nice for him. But it's not been really the best investment. So Intel right here, down about 8%. Do not expect that to get that much momentum. Maybe AMD rose after hours because of Intel, quite frankly, kind of sucking. And AMD is capturing a lot of market share in the GPU and the CPU market where they compete with Intel. And as a result, investors said, all right, we're selling Intel and we're buying AMD. And that could be happening as well. Windtree secures over $500 million equity line of credit to build a BNB treasury, traps Kraken for custody. Okay, so BNB, if I'm not wrong, that's the Binance ticker. So they are trying to build a Binance coin treasury. Interesting. We had the Dogecoin treasury. Yesterday, we had an NFT treasury that came out. And now we have a BNB treasury. Either of these are going to blow up in our face or, they're going to actually help the crypto ecosystem. But I guess we're going to find out. Adam, thank you for the $10 super chat. He says, I don't like Saylor's ATMs. They destroyed the stock. ATMs are good for everyone except Bitcoin and MSTR shareholders. Yes, I mean, that is one of the reasons why MSTR is down this week, even though Bitcoin is up, because Saylor did dilute by 700 million on Monday. I asked Jeff about this, and he said, hey, it's part of the game. He said, if we want MSTR to get more Bitcoin, they're going to have to dilute. And, as a shareholder, you either accept it or you don't. But that is at least the core way at this stage that they're going to be able to raise money and continue making momentum. Oscar, okay, is that one up or down? Because that one got downgraded again this morning by another analyst. Oscar's trying to get a little bit of move right here, up 2%. So, Oscar, I don't know why the analysts hate this stock so much, bro. They just hate this stock. Downgraded to neutral from 28 to 14. And essentially the analyst said, we think they have some issues with their MLRs. We think they have an issue with the exchange marketplace. We think there is a risk on the ACA, and we are lowering our earnings guidance. Now, the specific analyst from Bard who made this price target decrease, he has what is his rating on TipRanks? Let me pull it up. He has a really low rating on TipRanks. So a lot of people are saying this guy, 30% success rate. His average return is negative 7.4%. He is a one-star analyst on TipRanks. So a lot of people are saying this guy doesn't even know anything about investing or, how to analyze stocks. But it kind of feels like a coordinated attack on MicroStrategy. I mean, not MicroStrategy, Oscar throughout the week. I mean, we had a $9 target, an $11 target, an $8 target, and now a $14 target. And either they're all legit about how Oscar is a really crappy business and it deserves to go down, or all of them just don't understand Oscar. And I guess we're going to find out over the long term in terms of seeing how this plays out. Trump on Canada trade could just be a tariff, not negotiations. All right, I don't know where Trump is talking. He's not live anywhere, but he's obviously with reporters giving these quotes. I don't think he's traveling anywhere today, but it looks like he's talking about a bunch of different things. So he's talking also about Canada. He mentioned the EU, and We'll see what he says about Japan right here. He also says we have a confines of a deal with China. Most deals will be done by August 1st. Okay, Trump says most deals done by August 1st. We have confines of a deal with China, and it could just be a tariff, not negotiation on Canada. I'm pretty sure we'll get an actual deal on Canada, but Trump's trying to put some of the pressure on Canada as well. He's going to Scotland. Is Trump going to Scotland today? Yeah, you're right. Trump's going to Scotland. Okay, so he's probably talking to reporters near Air Force One right before on Air Force One or right before he gets on Air Force One before going to Scotland. And that's probably where we're getting these quotes from as well. Dude, I've never gone to Scotland, but I love the Scottish accent. Like, it's something with accents. I love the British accent. I love the Australian accent. And I love the Scottish accent. I've always, for some reason, loved those accents. So, all right, we'll get those quotes from there. Let's get a little bit of coverage on Intel since we were just talking about it and get a better understanding of why this one got hit yesterday.
Ahead. Both are neutral on the stock. There's a lot of sell side that are just staying neutral on the stock. But Deutsche Bank says Intel is heading in the right strategic direction, but the turnaround is going to take time until there's real progress. They expect the stock to stay range bound for now. A lot of price targets are just between $20 and $23. The market clearly isn't willing to wait, and that's why you're seeing shares down about 8%, guys.
It's pretty remarkable, Christina. This line I saw from the call, the last year of positive adjusted free cash flow they had, 2021, and they argue this is completely unacceptable. A lot of these problems have been brewing for a long time.
Yeah, I don't want to. Management is quick to say that it's the problem of the previous CEO, that he spent so much on the foundry business over the last little while, so much on building all of these advanced processes within 4 years, 5 nodes within 4 years, and so they're quick. Not quick. The company has no doubt spent a lot of money, but that's why Lip-Bu Tan is so diligent on cutting costs. He said that he wants to remove layers of management by 50%.
I just don't know who the hell's buying Intel over NVIDIA or AMD. Like why? Like, you got management talking about how they can reduce costs. You got management talking about how they need to lay off employees. They're laying off another 15% of employees yesterday. They announced like what is exciting at all about Intel as an investment thesis over something like NVIDIA or AMD? It's just not there. There's just nothing exciting about it. So I don't know. I don't know who gets excited about this or who. I mean, as a trading stock, it's phenomenal because it stays within a range and you can kind of day trade it long or short. But as an investment, it's like, why? Why would any extra dollar in this day and age, in a world where everything is growing at hypersonic speeds due to AI, would you be stuck in Intel? Just don't see the value there. NVIDIA right here, 173.25, S&P 635 in the pre-markets. Okay, UNH, they have earnings next week. I have no idea what's going to happen with UNH. It's a little green right here in the pre-markets. That DOJ investigation, I don't know if that ends up hurting UNH to a larger extent, as they probably have to talk about it on the earnings call. I do know that a lot of these insurance names, they've just been hit in a variety of ways. I mean, we saw CNC as well that got hit last month or about 2 weeks ago when they weren't really able to give out the guidance that they needed to give to get the market to be more excited. And as a result, it's just one of those things where it's like, all right, I mean, UNH is not going to have bad numbers, but if they don't really clarify how they're navigating the DOJ investigation, I mean, I could definitely see this one taking a hit, or I could also see this one going green if they say, hey, we did XYZ in cash flow, and the market's like, oh my goodness, why is this thing only worth $250 billion? And that could be your argument for why it continues to go higher. Now, Sarah London, the CEO of CNC, is trying to comfort investors in the health insurance sector. She said that 2025 headwinds with the ACA risk adjustment and redeterminations are fixable and mostly front-loaded. By the way, the Oscar Bulls will say the same about this. They're repricing 100% of the exchange book for 2026 and are confident it'll return to profitability. She also pointed to operation levers in Medicaid like utilization management, fraud controls, and rate advocacy already being implemented in high-pressure states like Florida and New York. So you had CNC that got a nasty hit a couple of weeks ago because of the lack of guidance they gave, and hopefully UNH doesn't take away any guidance, but that is what I'm watching out for UNH next week. I don't think any investor should have expectations that it's going back to 300. You should have expectations that, all right, if they at least have a good earnings, then it'll slowly make its way over the next couple of years and get some momentum. That one is slightly green in the pre-markets. SBET has a new CEO. I don't know who that new CEO is, but apparently they do. The thing about SBET, dude, is like the only reason SBET is relevant, in my opinion, is because of like people on Twitter that talk about it. Like most people don't even know what SBET is, but they know what BMNR is because of Tom freaking Lee. That's the one big differentiator between SBET and Bitmine. I mean, Bitmine also owns a lot more Bitcoin than almost double the amount of Bitcoin that SBET has, but also you got Tom Lee. Like he is the advocate for this thing, whereas SBET is like, I don't know how many people actually know them or care that much about them. And that's what made MicroStrategy. You had to, I mean, Tom Lee did another podcast yesterday about why he's going in on Ethereum. Like you just need someone who's out there actively talking to the media. And the more that they talk, the more there's a better chance to get people to think about it. Here's what Tom Lee said. Here's a 45-second clip of him at the New York Stock Exchange yesterday discussing Bitmine.
Glad to. The company is Bitmine. The ticker's BMNR. We announced that I was becoming chairman and that transaction closed July 8th, so roughly 16 days ago. So it's been about 2 weeks. And the company has since transformed from being a $26 million market cap to a stock with $4.5 billion of market cap and roughly $2 billion worth of Ethereum. And the revenue now, or net income annually from those holdings, is almost $100 million. So it's become basically a mid cap with $100 million of net income within 16 days.
Super.
I mean, you just need someone out there every single day who's going to preach the thesis. And I think that's what Tom Lee is committed to do. Palantir right here. She's trying to go for 156, folks. 155.68 is all-time highs. She's 20 cents away from breaking all-time highs. Let's see when the market opens. We got 6 minutes if that can play out. Again, Palantir got a price target upgrade to 170 this morning. And that might be one of the reasons why it's moving higher. Okay, Grab. Let's talk real quick about Grab in terms of what's going on. So there's a couple of layers to this story, but let me try to synthesize it right here. Shout out to Mike Longterm. He is a great account to follow on Grab. I'll link him in the chat for a lot of his DD as well. So one of the big bull cases on Grab was that they were going to acquire their biggest competitor in Indonesia called GoTo. And GoTo 2 weeks ago was accused of fraud, corruption of around $610 million. It looks like the investigators, including the Indonesia Corruption Eradication Commission, has started to dive deep onto the corruption scandal that has been going on with GoTo. And again, you can read this from the chat. I put the link in the chat. But the TLDR is that they found out that they are being corrupt, and it's pretty obvious that they found out that they're being corrupt. And as a result, it looks like the Indonesian government might end up going to Grab and asking them to take GoTo out of their misery by figuring out, or by essentially saying, hey, can you take over their business? Indonesia prosecutors continued searching GoTo and seized more documents and evidence of $613 million of ongoing corruption case surrounded stealing money from the fund that was designated to buy Chromebooks for poor children. You know, you have companies that have the social mission and they're like, hey, if you invest in us, we're going to donate some of this money. Apparently, the executives at the company were stealing that money and they weren't going to actually invest it into their social missions. Why is that bullish for Grab? Well, Grab was rumored by the media, the Indonesian media, by the way, of buying out GoTo for $7 billion. GoTo is barely worth $4 billion in the public markets. Their stock is down 85% over the past 5 years. This company should not even get $1 billion in a buyout. They should maybe get a couple $100 million. So now the question is, if they are seriously corrupt, and if this program over the past couple of years of saying, hey, we're going to take this money and donate it to children in these different schools was going into executive pockets, means that the Indonesian Corruption Commission wants to just get rid of the business. And in Southeast Asia, the government plays it's not as laissez-faire as the United States. Like in Southeast Asia, you really do have to cooperate with the government. If the Indonesian government says, hey, we don't trust in GoTo anymore, and we want a takeover by a competitor to essentially get rid of the operations and bring back just like the sanity of a company that should be operating in an ethical way, that's where Grab steps in. And maybe Grab has to pay a small fee, but if Grab steps in and is able to pay a couple $100 million, remember Grab raised $1.5 billion at a 0% coupon rate to do something like this, to take over a company. That's pretty damn bullish. Indonesia has 285 million people. GoTo has 100 million users. If Grab was able to take over that entire business, or even like half of that business, I mean, you're talking about top line revenue growth of well over 30%. Right now, it's at 22%, just based on the Indonesian market coming into Grab. This is also part of the reason I think the stock has broke out into the 35, 40 ranges, because now people are just saying, all right, maybe this is what the market knows about that, people have not discovered, which is that this go-to a company inside of Indonesia will be subsumed under Grab. Yeah, Grab won big time by just waiting, essentially. So that's the update on Grab. I mean, hopefully that plays out. We're going to see on earnings next Wednesday. But if that plays out, then it'll be really exciting to see. And maybe you got some momentum coming into Grab going into the end of the year. So that's what we got. All right, we got 2 minutes until the market opens. Let me know in the chat. What do you think, guys? Do we go green or red? Just put it in the chat. S&P 500. Do we end out all-time highs green, or do we have a bit of a haircut? It is a Friday. Anything can happen on Fridays. But past couple of Fridays have actually been really healthy, and we've closed. I think the past couple of Fridays we've closed at all-time highs on the S&P 500 for like 3 Fridays in a row. It has been 21 days since we've had a 1% move up or down, which means we've been slowly inching up. But we are up 2.9% for the month in July on the S&P. We average 1.28% every month in the past 10 years on July. And if we can hold this momentum towards the end of next week, earnings, by the way, 20% of companies have reported, 80% of those companies have beat. The only crappy earnings we've seen have been Chipotle, American Airlines, and Intel. And Deckers yesterday said they're going to be raising some prices due to tariffs. Maybe we'll see if other companies are doing that as well. So that was one of the reasons why Deckers got a little hit, although Deckers is up in the pre-market 16%. Looks like the street's ready to ignore that. So far, earnings have been fine. It's not been that bad. And so as long as that can continue, maybe we see more momentum. By the way, Palantir hitting all-time highs 30 seconds before the market opens, 155.81. Let's see if we can get 156, folks. That would be all-time highs. I see a lot of greens, more than reds in the chat. In about 20 seconds, we will get to ring this bell and see if this market can maintain its momentum. All right, folks, thank you all for being here. It is Friday, July 25th. We are here all across the world to see how the stock market does. It is 9:30 a.m. The stock market is now open. Palantir all-time highs. We're ringing the bell for that. $156 busted through. 156 busted through. I mean, 157 looks like it's possible. That's 156.70 right here on Palantir. Nvidia as well. Nvidia's trying to go for 174. Nvidia 173.80. Nvidia hit 174 a while ago, but then it got hit back down to like 167 on Monday. Grab right here at 536 Palantir. Wow, 157. Wow. 157. Shout out to Piper Sandler, who initiated a 170 target today. Looks like Piper Sandler's clients are like, all right, if it's going to 170, 157 sounds like a good deal. And they might be buying. 158 resistance is 31,000 shares, and it is 30 cents away from 158. My goodness. Dude, I'm telling you guys, I think that's Piper Sandler. I don't think there's any other fundamental news. Piper Sandler is a pretty freaking big bank. When they come out and say, hey, we are bullish on a stock, you're going to get at least some segment of the population take them seriously. Robinhood right here, 101.20. Tesla 309. Tesla's green as well. S&P 635. They're going to take that seriously, and they might end up buying 158. There she is. Does she want one? Dude, she's moving. She's at 158.30 within seconds. Within seconds. 159, 13,000 shares. 159, 13,000 shares. Yeah, if you're working from home today, GG. GG. Not working from home. Tesla 310 on rumors that the Robotaxi is coming to the Bay Area. ASTS is down 7%. Kohl's down 4%. Open Doors up 5%. Ethereum 3,600. You got HIMS right here. That's flat. Rocket Lab down 2.7. Big Bear down 2.5. The Qs are flat. American Airlines up a little bit. Chipotle up 1.3. T-Mobile, that's flat. Netflix is flat. ServiceNow up a little bit. Nvidia 173.24. Grab at 533. Palantir, she wants 159. She got 10 cents away from it. 13,000 shares, 158.64. It looks like there's a shot. It looks like there's a shot. Magusa says, I had to stand up. I can't sit. Oh my goodness. Dude, I just like I didn't expect Piper Sandler to come unless there's some other piece of news I didn't see on Palantir, which I tend to see most of the news on Palantir. I didn't see anything this morning other than this. It looks like this is Piper Sandler. Intel's down 9%. Intel gets crushed. Broadcom is flat. Google, how's that one doing? Google's also flat. Tesla is trying to get back to the 310s. I did buy 10 shares at 302 yesterday, so I bought a very small portion on the dip, but nothing too crazy. 302 is what it hit yesterday. 311 right here on Tesla. Duolingo's up a little bit. Palantir 158.02. United Healthcare, that's up 1.7%. SharpLink, that's up 4. Carnival Cruise is flat. Bitmine's actually down today. Yesterday, Bitmine was up. SharpLink was down. Today, SharpLink is up. Bitmine's down. So those are going the opposite direction. Then SoFi right here, 21.44. SoFi right here, 21.44. Dude, if we could hit freaking 160 today, that would be a fun Friday, right? That would be a fun Friday. 158.03. 158.03. Amid thoughts on Palantir running prior to earnings, a little scary in terms of what upside will be given on the report. Yeah, I mean, look, I think the earnings are going to be good. I think we're going to get 40% growth. I think we got to deliver a 4 in front of that revenue number in terms of percent year over year. In terms of the stock, I just don't know at this point. Because usually when a stock runs up into earnings, it gets a little too heated. Earnings might not be as good, and then the stock goes down. But what if the earnings are really good? And the earnings are in anticipation of the earnings that are going to just like take it higher. It is 10 cents away from 159, folks. There you go, 159. 159. The race for 160 is on today. The race for 160 is on today. And I mean, either the earnings are going to continue that momentum, or if the earnings don't, and look, here's the thing. If the earnings are not the best and it goes down to 150, I mean, if 150 is our support, I mean, I'm not going to be too upset about that. Google, by the way, going red. Google going red. So now it's just a question to see how this ends up playing out on earnings. But I think whoever Piper Sandler sent that note out to today, they decided to buy some shares. There you go, 158.31 on Palantir. 160 resistance is, I'm going to guess like 30,000 shares. 160 resistance is 117,000. Okay, so a little tougher than 158 and 159. 117,000. We got to see if we can get there. If you do have some covered calls right here that expire today, you may have to roll them. If you want to sell some covered calls today, the premiums are going to be juiced up because the stock is up about 3% right here. So that could help as well. Decker's up 17%. They did have really good international growth, over 50% year over year, even though their domestic growth was down 2.8%. So Hoka and Uggs, those brands are doing really well. And that also could be creating some momentum on Decker's. That's up 17%. AMD right here, up almost 2% as well. Grab at 535, TSM 242. Robinhood trying to get back to 102. UNH at 284. UNH getting some love, up 2%. Open Door. A lot of people are still trying to pump this thing on Twitter. I mean, there's a ton of people saying there's a real thesis behind this, and maybe there is, but earnings on Open Door, also that reverse stock split, if we're going to get that vote in favor of not a reverse stock split, is going to be the determining factor in a couple weeks on Open Door. But that stock right there basically stuck at 250. The fact that it's holding 250, it pumped up from 50 cents. So no one can be that upset unless, you bought in that high 3 range. But if not, then Open Door at least is holding 250, which is nice. Ethereum right here, 3,700. Schwab initiated a $20 billion buyback yesterday, which is nice to see as well. You don't really see in a recession these companies say, hey, we're going to buy back a ton of our stock. So it's nice to see momentum on these names. American Airlines right here, 1152. Chipotle, 4662. That one goes green. And then T-Mobile, that's up a little bit. Tesla, wow, 312. Tesla, nice little 3% recovery from yesterday. Coursera is up 28%. They crushed earnings as well. So shout out to Coursera. There you go, up 30%. I think Chris Camillo and Dumb Money, they like this stock. They've liked this stock for a while. So nice to see that one getting some momentum. 30% up on the day, 1185. And it doesn't seem like that's meme-ish. It seems like, they actually had a really good earnings. So that's why that's getting momentum, along with the fact that that's a small cap. Tesla right here, 312, and then Palantir, 158.42. S&P closed flat yesterday after hitting 636. So if it can get back to 636 today and actually hold that, I think that would be pretty exciting as well. Oscar, is that moving? Oscar, let's see. Oscar is 1441, even with the downgrade. So that's green. Lemonade, that one is up a little bit as well. What about Soundhound? That one is flat. D-Wave, Quantum, that one is down 1%, trying to get a little bit of a green candle from 1924. NVIDIA was breaking 174. Now it's at 173.24. NVIDIA's been consolidating for the better part of 2 weeks now, which is not a horrible thing to see. And then Palantir right there at 158.60. Oracle, 242, that's flat. Marathon, that's down 2.4. Is Bitcoin at 117? Bitcoin is at 116.2. And then Googs, for some reason, they're taking her down and making her red. They're making her red. Yes, ARK did buy 40 million of Tesla yesterday. That is correct. Kathy Wood did buy 40 million dollars of Tesla yesterday. UNH right there, 285. That's up 2.3%. UNH is green. Yes, Bank of America as well also did a buyback this week, 40 billion. I mean, dude, seeing these banks say we're going to buy back Bank of America 40 billion of our shares, JP Morgan 50 billion of our shares, Schwab 20 billion of our shares. It means they have a lot of confidence in the future. They have a lot of confidence in the business. They know that they can reward shareholders with dividends and buyback. I mean, they don't have to do it at those levels, but they're doing the math and they're saying, all right, we can afford to do this. Even Robinhood's been doing buybacks of their stock. I mean, it's just not the worst thing to see, and it doesn't feel like the most recessionary thing to see either when you're seeing these corporate buybacks. Decker's right here, 15%. All right, Palantir losing a little bit of steam below 158, but it did touch 159. Now we got to see if it can get back to those levels and maybe make a run for 160. Drigo, thanks for the super chat. Would you do a 165 Palantir covered call on earnings? Too early to roll? If not, to when? Or you're saying you already have a 165 covered call expiring 8/15. Okay, so here's the thing. If you expect Palantir to have a monster earnings and crack above 165, then I don't think it's too early to roll because, you know, you have earnings coming up next week. And so rolling right here is not crazy to me. If you are okay with, let's say, Palantir having a monster earnings and then it cracks above 165, maybe it goes to 170, and then you're underwater on your covered call, you can also roll it then. You're not going to get as much premium, but that's something you can manage. The way you get screwed is if Palantir gets to like 180, right? Then your call is just so deep in the money, you have to roll out for like another year and a half. But you can keep it around that range and roll it within the certain price and strike you're at if Palantir is at like that 160, 165 range. So personally, if you really want to keep the shares, I would roll it right now. Try to get to like 170, 180, roll it out a couple months. And then you can always roll back down if there's any weakness in the stock. But if you think Palantir can, you know, stay within 160, 165 after earnings, again, this stuff is hard to predict because we just don't know what's going to happen on earnings. Then I think you can manage it even if you don't roll the position right now. So that's how I would navigate it if I had that trade. CoreWeave, is that down today? CoreWeave is, yeah, CoreWeave's down 2%. And then Nebius, that is also down along with CoreWeave. Trump says Japan wants to have a weak currency. When you have a strong dollar, you can't sell anything. Okay, so we got some more quotes from Trump. I'm sure we'll get that video soon. He's probably on Air Force One talking before going to Scotland. Honest, how about that stock? Honest is at 489, and then BMNR, is that one up today? BMNR was down. It is down 2.3%. Amit, explain what BMNR is. BMNR is an Ethereum treasury led by Tom Lee. It is essentially the MicroStrategy for Ethereum. That's the simplest way I could explain it. And so if you're buying BMNR, you are buying a levered bet on Ethereum and the hope that Tom Lee can raise more and more capital in whatever way that he finds a mechanism to raise that capital to then buy more ETH. And then if ETH goes up, BMNR probably goes up as well. Tesla right here, 310, Palantir 157.70, up about 2% right now. Amit, what's your plan for Misty? Nothing. Just hold it. That's it. Just holding it. I'm not really adding to the position, not selling. I've had 500 shares for like about 3 months now. It's just the covered call ETF. That's it. And so there's nothing, you know, meaningful to do with it. But as long as MicroStrategy continues to be volatile, then Misty will continue to pay dividends. ASML is, wow, 706.99. 826 to 705, dude. Bottomed at 701 on July 22nd. This one has not been able to find its footing at all. It's not been able to find its footing at all. ASML right here still down about 2%. I am not in Ulti, but that's a great fund as well. And that would not be a horrible one to get into either. Big Bear AI, that one's down as well. Yes, that one down 2.4. D-Wave down 1.5. NVIDIA down half. And then Palantir right back to 158. Dude, momentum is strong on Palantir. 9 million shares traded within the first 12 minutes. I mean, you've got people with a lot of buying pressure right here. I would not be surprised if this thing makes a run back to 159, if not 160. Can we believe that, like, we're even talking about Palantir like this? I was talking about someone the other day. I was talking to CodeSwap. I did a podcast on CodeSwap's channel for those that haven't seen it. CodeSwap has started a consulting firm that is tailored towards helping businesses implement Palantir Foundry, which is really good because you think about AWS, there's like thousands of consultants across the world, probably tens of thousands that are just AWS consulting firms or Azure consulting firms or GCP consulting firms, right? And so they make a lot of money by helping clients implement AWS, Azure, and GCP, which is really good for those companies because you have people essentially evangelizing your product and bringing it to the market. That's what CodeSwap is doing with his new company when it comes to Palantir. And we were talking about it on that podcast, and he was just like, we didn't really get a chance to celebrate 50 or 100 or 150 because it just happened within a year. And we eventually have to do Vegas for it. But the fact that we're even thinking, hey, I think Palantir can break 160, it's like, it's incredible. $372 billion market cap today on Palantir. Tesla's just got back to $1 trillion. It was at $980 billion yesterday. It's at $1 trillion. Palantir right here, back over 158. 372 billion. Obviously, yes, it's expensive. I get it. I've been saying that for a long time now. Piper Sandler admitted it this morning, but they said, hey, basically, Piper Sandler said it's a unicorn. They said it in a more intellectual way, but they said it's a unicorn, and that's why you should pay more for it. It is just an incredible story. Wall Street has really embraced what would be otherwise known as one of the most expensive names ever, that there's no way you could justify touching it. And you got these fancy, smanchy Wall Street banks telling their clients, well, it's a unicorn. So you might want to pay a premium. Google right here, 193. All right, Google going green. Google below 200 is a crime. It is a crime. Google below 200 is a crime after those earnings. It does not make sense to me. I don't get it. Is Google a buy? In my opinion, yeah. But I mean, you have to be weary of the fact that maybe there's an overhang on a narrative that truly is hurting the stock more than people are accounting for. And I don't think long-term that will be the case, but in the short term, if you buy Google at 193 and it tanks back down to 185, I just feel like you have to ask yourself, how bad is this AI narrative, which I don't even think should be existing anymore after they crushed on search. Like the whole AI is search is dead narrative was based on the fact that AI is going to commoditize search or at least take away search. And we're not seeing that. We're not seeing that. So I don't get it. Now, maybe the legal issues with the DOJ, yes, that could be causing some issues, but I think Google will find a way to resolve that. I think the bigger problem for Google is what happens if they lose exclusivity on Safari and Apple. Right now, Google is the de facto search engine for 2 billion devices on Apple. What happens if that goes away? I don't think it would be good. I don't think it's a death wish to Google. I think it actually hurts Apple more, but that could be one of the overhangs that's on the stock, and it obviously could happen. But let's say they don't. What if they don't lose Apple? What if the DOJ or the monopoly, the antitrust body says, we don't really need to stop them from doing that? I mean, I feel like that's a massive tailwind if they get to keep those 2 billion devices that search every day. So the question is just, what ends up happening with the authorities on Google. But I think that's why it's being held down, because those earnings are not a reason to stop this one from going higher. Palantir trying to make its run back to 159 again. Trying to make its run back to 159 again. Also says, I sold all my Uber and bought more Google right before the green candle. All right, not a bad move. Uber right here is flat. Uber's still up almost 40% on the year. So Uber's been doing great this year, but this one's flat. Google trying to get back to 194, and then Palantir 50 cents from 159. Google took on a lot of debt. Can that be the issue? Okay, if someone in the chat, let me know how much debt Google has, but no matter what, whatever the number of debt Google has is probably inconsequential compared to the amount of cash they have. So I don't think taking on any debt is the issue. Like, interest rates don't affect Google because they have so much cash. So whatever debt they have is probably strategic debt. It's not any meaningful debt that's hurting their actual earnings. So yeah, it's not debt. It's a narrative. And it's not those earnings. Those earnings were incredible. It has to be a narrative that's really hurting Google. 159.30. All right, folks. She's going for it again. She's going for it again. Question is, does she get rejected here, or can she bust through 159.50 and then maybe there's a shot for 160? Maybe there's a look at Palantir saving our Friday morning, making it exciting for us. Nothing else is really going on in the market outside of the Trump J-Pow stuff we had yesterday. Everything else relatively flat. Palantir giving us a Friday morning to get excited about. 159, I got to do the big bell, folks. Or sorry, 160. We do it on the round numbers. So the zeros, the fives, 160 would be the big bell on Palantir today. Dude, this is pretty incredible. Alvin says, I'm staying up because of this. Let me know in the chat if you're around the world and it's like late night and you're staying up to see if we can get the 160. Let me know where you are if you are awake. AMD right here is also trying to go green, or it is green on the day. 164 on AMD. Cracking 165 would be nice for that. It hit that yesterday after hours as well. Tesla right here at 309. Broadcom 289. There she is. She hit 159.50. She hit 159.50. We got Singapore, Hawaii. Theo says nearly 12 a.m. in Australia. Yeah, I got to call Steve at 160. I got to call Steve. Singapore, 9:50 p.m., 8:50 in Vietnam. Dude, it is going to be wild doing the market open, market close when I go to Singapore next year. Like, it is going to be wild, but we're going to find a way to do it every day. TSM 241, hoodie 102 as well. And then you got Palantir. What else is moving today? I mean, you don't have a lot of movers. You really don't. Cheesecake's down 1%. GE Veranova's up 2.7. The cruise lines are flat. Bitcoin's flat. Nvidia's flat. Tesla making a little bit of a move. Palantir. All right, here you go. 40 cents. 159.60. 40 cents. Yeah, it's 6.50 in California. For all of those that are up early in the West Coast, this is a nice little coffee to wake up to. 159.50 on Palantir. And now we just got to see if we can crack through. Whenever I do the market open from California, again, I feel so productive because by like 8 a.m. I'm done with like the show and you have the whole day left. But it's also like, dude, you have to wake up at like 4:30 just to even get started to get ready. Google has 10 billion in debt. Okay, yeah. So I don't think Google's debt is that big of a concern. I don't have a lot of BM&R. I have 30 shares. I have not really built out a main position. I bought it because someone sent a super chat for it. So I do not have a massive position in BM&R. All right, this is it. I mean, like, it either gets rejected here or it breaks through. It either gets rejected or breaks through. If it gets rejected, we're just gonna have to wait longer to see if it makes it. Oh, there you go, 159.80. It looks like it wants to break through, folks. Looks like it wants to. This is why I wear a watch that doesn't tell a time, because the time is always now. This is why. Time is always now. That's why I wear that watch. 159.70. S&P 635. AMD losing a little bit of its steam. Palantir. All right, here you go. 159.90. Every 10 cents it like gets there. And then it takes a little bit of a breather and then it breaks through. 159.90 we hit again. Here we go. This is 10 cents. 160, by the way, resistance is 121,000 shares. 121,000. Dude, my goodness. My goodness. Shout out to Piper Sandler, bro. I think they've got to be the reason. Like, I don't see any other fundamental news other than them telling all their clients that it's going to 170. It's funny because in their note, they were like, hey, buy it on a pullback. And I feel like all their clients were like, there is no pullback. We're buying it now. They're like, we can't wait for a pullback. And then boom, you see some of this momentum. When will Palantir do a stock split? Dude, if Palantir does a stock, that would be hilarious. Imagine they get to 200 and they split their stock. Like, they probably wouldn't do that, but like, it would be funny because let's say they do a 5-for-1 split and it goes from 200 to 40. I mean, you're gonna get a lot of people, just like natural. Like if Meta went from 700 to 70, I would buy 100 shares of Meta immediately because I'd be like, all right, finally, like I can own some Meta easily. I think there would be a lot of buying pressure going into Palantir. 159.50 already got rejected at 159.93. It's taken a little bit of a breather. We're going to see if it can get back there. Tesla 309. Let me see if there's any other macro news going on. Trump said EU may have to buy down their tariffs. Okay, so Trump's saying they might have to give us a Japan type of deal of investing in the United States and then bringing down the tariff rate. I don't know if the EU is going to do that. I don't know if they would love to do the same type of deal like Japan. And then Trump said, I also have had so many different fights with Xi Jinping around tariffs. So it looks like he's talking about some of the issues they've had with China on negotiating. 159.80, Tesla 310 up. This is the moment. 160, 160. There she is. $160 a share, £4 here. This stock was $6 2.5 years ago. Today, it is 160. Congratulations to everyone who has been following this journey. Ladies and gentlemen, the big bell pound here, 160. Dude, this is just, for all those that stayed awake for it, thank you for being here and being part of the community. This is just incredible is not really the word. There is no word to describe this. It broke through the 120,000 shares that were stuck at 160. And now you're here. I mean, it's one of those things, dude. Everyone says, what's the next Palantir? I don't think you ever find another name that does something like this. It's a different type of journey to find something like this from 6 to 160. Congratulations to everyone. Trump is live right here answering some of those questions. We're going to pull over to that real quick, and then we'll keep going from there.
We got a lot of them out. A lot of them. We took a lot of bodies out too. You know, so many of the parents said, please get my son's body back. And we're able to do that. We got a lot of people out live and people that are not alive. But it was very important to the parents to get their son back, even though they knew their son was dead. Are you going to be able to get the Open Championship back to Turnberry? I think they will do that, yeah. Turnberry's rated the #1 course in the world. I think they'll do that, yeah. And are you going to talk to the world? You know, we have restrictions and they have restrictions, as you know, on nuclear. That's not an agreement you want expiring. We're starting to work on that, but that is a big problem for the world. When you take off nuclear restrictions, that's a big problem for the world. What level parking? I think that Jerome Powell, I think we had a very good meeting. Forgetting about the building, that's out of control, all that. But I think we had a very good meeting on interest rates. And he said to me, now I don't know if he's going to say this on Thursday or every speak, but he said to me very strongly, the country is doing well. He said, congratulations, the country is doing really well. And I got that to mean that I think he's going to start recommending lower rates.
Because of that conversation?
How do you think that the Supreme Court really is doing well?
All right, we'll try to get some more of those quotes later. A little hard to hear with the background sound, but Trump saying that Jay Powell told him country's doing well. Does that mean he's going to lower rates? I don't know. But at least we got some of that confirmation by Trump. 160, folks, on Palantir. NVIDIA, by the way, she's moving with Palantir. NVIDIA finally breaking out. It's been stuck. NVIDIA just hit a new all-time high. NVIDIA just hit a new all-time high. Let me check 175 resistance. If we could get 175 on the same day as 160, that would be beautiful to see. 175 resistance on NVIDIA is 560,000 shares. 560,000 shares. Hit 174.51. That was the all-time high. Tesla trying to break 312 again. Broadcom 290 moving with NVIDIA. Kind of all the semis starting to move. AMD getting ready to crack 165, 164.67. Taiwan semi, that's up as well. Robinhood above 103, even with Bitcoin taking a little bit of a dump yesterday. So Robinhood getting some momentum. And then Palantir right here trying to get back to 160, which I think it will, given a crack through that initial resistance that we had. Dude, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. My family is used to the bell by now. I told you guys a story. My grandmother, she asked me a couple weeks ago. She's like, why are you ringing that bell every morning? And I had to explain to her like what we do with like the stock market when it opens. But she's Indian and she prays every morning, and so she rings her own little bell. So a lot of Indians probably know that that's what they do in the morning. And so she knows what a bell ringing sounds like. But she was like, do you pray every like? Why are you ringing this big bell? Like, no, it's a stock market, and like we're all just happy to see the stocks go up, hopefully. But yeah, they are used to it at this point. Tesla right here, 310 Palantir. She's losing 160. I think she'll be back once you break through a big resistance level. It's just a matter of time before you get back above it, or at least that's what Palantir has been able to do very well over the past couple of years. And so you'll have some people taking some profits here, but you've got enough buyers coming in. S&P 635, AMD 164, and then NVIDIA. I mean, let's see. Let's see if 175 is on deck. Let's see if 175 is on deck. LOL, we're in a cult. Yes, exactly. We're in a cult. My wife still hates it. She actually screamed at me this morning when I rang it when Palantir. I'm happy you rang the bell with me. Gus, you were at one of the meetups, right? I think Gus was at one of the meetups, so you got one of the little bells. I usually give out little bells at the meetup. I was so annoyed, dude. At the Boston meetup, I forgot to give everyone the little bells. I had them in my bag, and I got so distracted. I forgot to like hand out the small little cowbells. I wish I was able to do that in Boston, but if you come to a meetup, you will get one of those little bells, and then you can ring it with me every morning. Yeah, you still got it. There you go. Lane says we're a happy cult. That is correct. Amit, do you speak Hindi with the family? I know how to speak Hindi. I'm not the best at it. I speak it with my grandparents, but my mom and my dad, I don't speak Hindi. Although they talk to me, they'll like speak English, and then when they curse at me, they'll say Hindi. So it'll be like when my mom gets mad I didn't take out the trash, she'll like speak Hindi. And then, I'll be like, okay, I should really start taking out the trash if she's that upset. I should go do that. But yeah, usually we don't speak Hindi next to each other. 175 is 558,000 shares on NVIDIA. She's trying to go for it again. AMD oh, there she goes. AMD cracks 165. Palantir back to 159. And then NVIDIA trying to get to 175. Dude, you guys think I can't speak English? Imagine me trying to speak Hindi, which again, I can speak it. Like if my life depended on it, I would be able to say the things that are necessary to like hopefully get out of the situation. But it would be pretty rough. Like I know enough of the basic terms to put together a sentence, but I end up messing up most of my sentences. Jem, thanks for the super chat. Your new neighbors better be able to endure the bell in the future. Otherwise, the future of the show is compromised. Yeah, that's true, bro. I don't know how soundproof my walls are. I would hope they're pretty soundproof. I mean, because if I get complaints of ringing the bell every morning, we're gonna have some issues, bro. I feel like I'm paying enough rent where the sound, the walls should be, pretty thick, and we shouldn't have any issues with sound. But hopefully we have no complaints. Apple right here, 214. Google 193.55. Is Hoodie trying to make a little bit of a run again? Hoodie 103. Nothing too crazy, but it's up 1%. It's up 1%. Just buy the building. Yeah, that's a good idea. I need Palantir to get to like 250, and then we'll just buy the whole damn building. That'll be easier. What else? Tesla's running. Yes, Shopify also, that's running a bit. Shopify 124. Again, that got a big move from that OpenAI partnership. Dude, you guys are quick. Shout out to Misha. Misha just tagged me on Twitter. You guys are quick. It's so cool when when I see how you guys are watching the show every time. This is a TV. It's not an iPad. It's so cool. Shout out to Misha. Thank you for sharing this. It's so cool. Some of you guys have a big TV. Some of you guys have the iPad. There were a group of people that came to the Toronto meetup, and they literally hosted a watch party for Palantir on the earnings where they cracked 100 for the first time. And they showed me a video of me, Arnie, Amir, we're all on the screen, and then Palantir cracks 100, and their watch party just explodes. Like all of them are, they're cheering, they're loud, they're just so excited. So it's so cool to to be part of your homes while we celebrate these moments. Tesla 312, hoodie 102.89, and then Palantir 159.82. She's making a run again for 160. Yes, and they had an entire Palantir flag. They had an entire Palantir flag, which is wild. Okay, I'm not going to speak Hindi right now, dude, because first of all, my American Indian accent is so bad that I'm not going to make you guys cringe with my Hindi accent because it's so bad. Like, it is just not good. So I'm just not going to do it. What percentage of women attend your meetups? You know, honestly, I would say it's about 20%. It's not like it's 0%. There's a decent number of women there, but honestly, a lot of the women end up being the girlfriends or wives of the men that show up, and they're there to support. I mean, there are some women that actually do watch the show. Obviously, it's definitely more of a skewed to a male audience, but I would say it's 20-80. It's definitely not like 95-5. It's definitely 20-80, and hopefully that improves over time. But a lot of your guys' girlfriends and wives show up, and it's super cool because then I get to tease them about having me on in the background every day. And so many of them are like, well, we got used to it at this point. And so now we're happy that you're there every day. But it is cool, dude. Every time it happens, it is super, super cool. My uncle in the chat saying you should speak Hindi so we know how much we taught you. I am not speaking Hindi, bro. Not doing it. I'm not doing it. By the way, my uncle's long ETH. For those that want to know some of his plays, he texted me a picture of him on a train. He's in India right now with some of our other family going on vacation, and he has me on every day in the background. So now the rest of my family has to listen to me every day. But he was watching the ETH deep dive, and I was like, dude, I'm turning kind of bullish on ETH. And he's like, bro, you're late. I'm already loaded up on it. I was like, what? When did you load up on ETH? He's like, yeah, your deep dive was just confirmation bias for me. He's like, I've been in this thing. I'm like, all right. I guess I got to load up now. Is he still long silver? Yes, he's been long silver for a while. He has some calls on silver for 2026 as well. SLV, 35.31 on silver. Silver, gold, platinum, all these commodities made a nice little run this week, even though they're down today. They've made a bit of a move. Nvidia, are we moving up? Nvidia, oh, she's moving up. 174.65. Dude, if she gives us 175 today, that would be so nice. That round number, 175. It'd be so nice to see that on Mr. Nvidia. Rob, thanks for the $10 super chat. Admit which energy stock, especially nuclear, would you say is a good stock for the AI game? I am not fully sure what is the best energy stock in nuclear. Obviously, Oklo is a big one, but this thing is already like 10x in the past literally 7 months. So it's a bit expensive. I know nano nuclear, people like that. SMR, people like that. There's nuclear ETFs you can go through. But the problem is all these names are up a lot in the past couple months. So you would have to really do your due diligence and think which one has the best risk reward given, you know, it could have a big drawdown if they have like a bad earnings or if they lose a contract. But exposure to nuclear as a concept over the next 10 years, I don't think is crazy because we need a lot of energy. Yeah, UUU is another one of those ETFs you can look at as well. AMD, is she running? AMD, wow, 166 on AMD. There you go. Busted through 165. Let me check resistance. That is going to be helping out my stock draft today. AMD, oh, Palantir's got to be helping it out as well. I'm going to pull it up in a second. AMD, 167 resistance on AMD is 29,000 shares. 29,000 shares, which is not too bad. Robinhood almost 103 again. Nvidia 174.54. And then Tesla at 312. Palantir 159.40. 159.40. All right, let's pull up the stock draft. Let's see. Dude, last night also, speaking of just like Indian accents and Indian culture. So my grandparents are leaving on Saturday. And for those that are part of that Indian culture, you know that like when your grandparents are leaving or when a guest is leaving your house, they try to give you money. And so last night we're all sitting together and my grandmother, she tells me and my sister to come over and we already knew what's about to happen. And my mom already knows what's about to happen. And my grandmother goes for her purse and and then my mom's like, no, we're not taking the money. We're not taking the money. And I'm over here like, I'm just saying, I'm like, I'm going to let them argue because I'm not part of this. And she gets ready and they start yelling at each other about it, like giving the money, not giving the money. And it's just hilarious because of course we end up taking the money because like my grandmother's like, you're going to make me feel so sad if you don't take the money. And so I take the money and then my mom's like, why are you taking the money? I'm like, what do you want me to do? Like, you want me to just like make her feel sad? Like I have to take the money. Like, what do you want me to do? And so we ended up taking the money. So there you go. Matt right here is up 19%. Tanner's up 10. I'm up 8.6. AMD and Pounds are helping today. Steve's up 2.4. Chris is up 1%. So it is still Matt, Tanner, Amit, Steve, and Chris. There you go. That's what we got. Teach her to use Zelle. Oh my gosh. You know, to be honest though, the last time she gave me $200 when she came to America as like a hey, I'm here, here's a gift, and I gave that $200 away. When I went to New York, I gave it to some homeless people. So that $200, I didn't even use it. I gave it away because like I felt like that was you know, she's giving me blessings. I want to continue giving the blessings, so I gave it away. So the $200 she gave me last night, I'm going to New York next week. I'm going to give that $200 away. Now, if I tell my grandmother that, she's going to be upset because as much as she loves giving out money, she's also very like money conscious. It's like a weird duality between how these like older Indian women think about money. And so she would be upset if she heard I gave it away. So don't tell her. But yeah, I just gave it away. And I'll probably give away more of the money. You can't use it to buy meth. Oh my gosh. Use the money for a grandchild investment fund. It would make her so happy. Well, so the thing is she knows I don't need the money. Like she knows what I do in life. And my mom keeps telling her like, he doesn't need your $200, but for her, it just makes her so happy, you know? And like, that's why I took it. Because I'm like, I don't want to make her feel bad. Like if she wants to give me the money because it makes her feel happy, then I'll take it. Robin at 102.93, Google 193, Apple 214, Tesla 312. But like, what am I going to do with $200? Like, I'm not like, you know, it's like, I'd rather do something nice with that money versus like, I'm not going to put it in my bank account. I'm not going to invest it. Like it's just $200 of cash. Apple stuck. Yes, Apple is stuck right here. Apple, again, that foldable phone thing is what was the rumor last week. And that's what at least got it from like 208 to 215. Dude, take her out for a nice dinner. You guys don't understand. We took her out for dinner the other day and like, it was another fight when the bill came to the table and she wouldn't let us pay for it. And my mom is like, can we please take you out? Can we just pay for dinner? She was like, no, you can't pay for dinner. Like, it is such a weird thing in Indian culture with parents not being able to like accept money. And my mom is like, you're 75 years old. You don't have an income. All you have is your pension. Like, why can't you let us pay for you? And she's like, no, you can't pay for us. And the other thing is, and this, you know, this is the women in the chat, you're going to be offended by this, but it is what it is. My grandma will not let my mom pay for anything because she's a daughter and not a son. And so it is what it is, bro. She's very traditional. She's like, I can't take money from a daughter. I have to take money from my son. So my uncle can pay for whatever, but my mom can't. And it is what it is. That's just how she is. AMD 167. 167 on AMD. There you go. Dude, AMD is cracking today. Up 3%. This is basically 52-week highs. Broke through 100,000 shares at 167. If she can crack 170, that would be very nice to see. 167 on AMD. So, yeah, that's how she is. Indian people go out to dinner at Indian restaurants. Well, we can't take her anywhere else because she doesn't eat meat. She can't be in the vicinity of meat, bro. Like if she's even near a restaurant, Tesla, by the way, 314, where she knows they cook meat, even if we order like a vegetarian dish, she won't go to the restaurant. We tried this back in 2018. We took her to a restaurant and we didn't tell her they like cook meat. And then she was sitting and then she saw a couple next to us, like eating chicken, and she like refused to eat at the restaurant. Like she's very, very traditional when it comes to this type of stuff. So the only other restaurants we can go to are Indian restaurants because they don't serve meat. Robinhood right here, 103.38, Google 193, Shopify 124, AMD 166.50. Palantir, she's making another one at 160. So we haven't hit 160 since the initial 160 push about 15 minutes ago. 40 cents away. Let's see if we can crack above it. No, she doesn't eat fish either, dude. Anything that involves life, egg, fish, chicken, none of it. She knows I eat it though. So like, like she knows if I go out for lunch and then I come back home, she knows that I just engaged in sinning, but she's okay with it. She's learned to live with it. She doesn't drink alcohol either, so I always tease her. I was like, "Hey, you want some alcohol?" She's just like, "No, I don't." So I was like, "Why not? Like 75, might as well try it now." And she's like, "I'm not doing that." Google right here, 193 hoodie, 103.40 as well. United Healthcare 282. 282. All right, so market's kind of cooling down. We don't have any crazy trades or anything happening outside of some of these Trump quotes. Broadcom's up, AMD's up, Nvidia's up, S&P basically flat, 635.50. Trump said we would use the tariff money for rebates to Americans. They floated this idea a while ago, bro. This idea of like a dividend, a tariff dividend. I've also heard the AI dividend. I don't understand how that makes sense. We have $36 trillion in debt. How the hell would you give a rebate to Americans with the tariff money versus just paying off our debt? Like the only rebate I could imagine, and it would come in the form of a tax cut, which they already passed, right? So that we would have to pay less taxes. I guess that's our pseudo rebate. But actually giving Americans dollars, like in a check, because of the tariff revenue makes no sense when we have 36 trillion in debt. Like I've never understood that argument. Economically, I don't get how they even justify it. Have you told your grandma you've had steak before? So I've had steak. I haven't told her. It's never come up in conversation. So, I mean, she probably wouldn't be happy about it, but it is what it is. The one thing I will say though is every morning I wake up before I do the market open and I go downstairs and I give my grandma a hug, and she's really appreciated that every day. Like she constantly mentions to me how much she appreciates that I like hug her every morning. And with the passing of Ozzy and Hulk Hogan, it's just one of those things this week where you I don't know, you remember like, hey, if you love someone, tell them you love them. Tell them you love, give them a hug, you know, because you just never know when you're going to see them again. She's going back to India, so it's probably going to be a couple years until I see her again as well. And you just, you know, you want to make sure you let people know that you care about them. 159.65 on Palantir, up 3. AMD just below 167, and then Tesla tried to crack 315, right back to 312. Amit, what part of India is your family from? New Delhi. New Delhi. They're from New Delhi. And that's where I've been many times. I've never been to Mumbai though. My uncle, he's been to Mumbai. I think he's lived in Mumbai for like 10 years. Not anymore, but that's another part of India that I want to get to. Doesn't your grandma pressure you to get married ASAP? She casually mentions getting married every day in some capacity. Like she'll find a way to bring it up. Palantir 159.60. She'd be like, you need to learn how to do this because when you have a wife, or like, I hope your wife does this, blah, blah, blah. She's like, she'll find every way to bring up. The number one way she brings it up, and it pisses my mom off every time, is like, well, I don't even know if I'm going to be alive to see your marriage. Yeah. And then my mom's like, why are you talking about that? Like, why are you bringing that up? And she's like, well, it's the truth. It's like, I don't know if I'm going to be, the one that she's very religious, like super religious. But the beautiful thing about being super religious as well is that you've come to grips with death because you believe in the afterlife and you believe in like heaven and seeing your God, right? So it's almost like you kind of are okay with the inevitability of death because you know that there is something greater beyond this physical existence. And so she casually mentions death like 10 times a day. And my mom just cringes every time. She's like, why are you bringing this up? But she does it every day. All right, what other news do we have, dude? I think that's pretty much it across the news headlines. Let's see if we have any macro news. Obviously, we're going to see if some of these stocks can continue breaking into momentum around 160 on Palantir, 175 on Nvidia. Durable orders month over month, negative 9.3% versus negative 10.8%. We got that piece of macro data. That is actually good and not bad. Durable goods ex defense month over month, negative 9.4 versus negative 6 expected. That's not bad. Or actually, that is bad because that's a beat, whereas the other one, it's a miss. So one of them you had a beat, one of them you had a miss. Those don't affect the market that much. S&P doesn't care too much around those. AMD still at 166. Let's see if we can get some more coverage right here on what else is going on. Nebius does not have earnings today. I don't think they have earnings today. I think it's in 2 weeks. Robinhood right here at 103.70. I don't know why Robinhood's making a little bit of a move today. Might be just a random thing on Friday, but don't see any other main reason. Here's Dan Niles. He's live. Let's see if he has any thoughts on what's going on in this market and where things could be going from here.
Positive coming into it. I wrote about that. And I thought the stock would be up 5% plus. It was up just barely 1%. Now you can say it had a 10-day, it was up 10 days in a row shortly before that, but it's still not up that much year to date. And if you miss, and IBM didn't really miss, they just reiterated guidance. The stock's down 8% yesterday. Honeywell, Dover, they were down 6%, 2%, beat and raise quarters there. And so a lot of this, I think, comes down to positioning. And Google set a really high bar. I mean, that was a very good report. So I'm seeing the stock reactions and what you exactly said, Sarah. These stocks have had a huge run up. Multiples are high across the market. You have to be very concerned if it's a consensus loan. So that's kind of how big picture I'm approaching.
Do any of them, do you like more than others? I think Microsoft was one you were eyeing.
Absolutely. Yeah. So specifically, Microsoft, I think, is the best one, partly because they had such a rough time last year. If you go back to last year, when they reported the June quarter, Azure was a disappointment. And they reported the September quarter, Azure was a disappointment. They reported the December quarter, Azure was a disappointment. Then they did the Stargate deal where they restructured their agreement with OpenAI. And the March quarter, they actually saw Azure reaccelerate. It grew 2% faster than it did in the December quarter. And I think you're going to see that continued benefit as you go into June. And then with NVIDIA, don't forget, they had that massive write-down. I got bullish on that after the write-down. And now China comes back into the models when it got taken out of the models. And you're seeing CapEx now really strong, driven by inference, which is much more sustainable than training, right? Because we all want answers to our questions, right? We don't care about the training. And so I think you're going to see that continue to do well. Obviously, they're off quarter, but the ones I'd be concerned about are the ones that you potentially have tariff-related impacts that could skew what the guidance looks like. Because the issues with a lot of these reports have been, well, if you're saying there's a pull-in, you've got a problem. So Amazon, obviously, lots of products sourced from China. I'm sure the quarters are all good for all of these companies, but like an Apple, like what do they say about pull-ins? Even though I'm sure.
That's going to be really important, but Apple already guided for $1 billion hit on tariffs for Q2. So I don't think the market's going to be that surprised by it. They already kind of factored it into the price. So I still think big tech, even with the tariffs, are going to be okay. Speaking of NVIDIA, though, folks, one of the biggest verticals in the ecosystem of AI that will be using NVIDIA chips are humanoid robots. Unitree just came out. Look at this with their R1 robot. $5,900. Take a look at that, bro. If I'm not wrong, Unitree is a company from China, and China has been innovating fast when it comes to robots. For $6,000, you can get this thing. Looks kind of scary, bro. It also looks, yeah, I agree. It looks kind of plastic. It looks like it could break really easily, but I mean, these robots are coming. They are seriously coming. And then when Jensen talks about this as one of their next verticals, he's not messing around. Like, this is a real industry that's forming. I do think that could be something very exciting as well going into 2026 earnings for a lot of these companies as they begin to scale. This is another reason NVIDIA needs to be able to sell into China, because if China is going to be using a lot of chips to power these robots, you can't get all those chips from Huawei. Like, you need some of that, at least from NVIDIA. And that's why it's good that export control has started to go away for NVIDIA and AMD. Wow. Dude, progress is happening. I know Optimus and Figure and Aptronic are the big ones in America, but you are starting to see these Chinese companies get to market pretty soon. Speaking of robots and speaking of semiconductors, let's get someone onto the show who can help us break down some of the earnings that we've seen this week, along with momentum we're seeing in the AI sector. And of course, Robinhood breaks 104. Of course, Robinhood breaks 104 because Robinhood's addicted to this guy being on my show. It just happens to go up every time he hops onto the show. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Jose.
Oh, man. What's going on? What's going on? It's funny when you're like speaking about robots. I'm like, I don't think I'm a robot just yet. I'm still pretty human-like.
Well, you're pretty symbiotic with Robin every time, dude.
But yeah, I mean, pretty. First, hello to your community. Thanks for having me, like always. Pretty interesting week in just the semiconductor AI investor earnings, right? We had some Google, we did it live. We had Intel, which was crazy in my opinion, and we had a lot of just random updates about the AI market. There were also a lot of unknown companies that I want to say in the semiconductor market that reported earnings that I do think bring even more bullish sentiment for the AI story still.
Okay, so let's get into some of these earnings. I think let's start off with Google, and I definitely want to talk about Intel and AMD as well. But what do you think you got as an AI investor from this earnings, and why do you think the street is not recognizing it yet still?
I think Wall Street's stupid. That's the easiest thing I can say. This is that company that has it all to succeed in this AI race. They have the data, they have the infrastructure, they have the cash flow, they have the consumer products. So it's not like they need to work on something new. They literally have it all. And I think that's what Wall Street, for some reason, sees as a weakness because they have it all. Maybe it's going to be a lot easier for someone to come take market share because if you're already starting from a big place, maybe it's easier to get smaller. I guess that's what Wall Street might be expecting. It's easier to lose to the competition opposed to keeping that market share in this revolutionary space. But we looked at the numbers live, right? Everything beat. Advertising revenue beat. Google Cloud destroyed expectations. The market was expecting around 27, 28. They gave 32. Their search and ad revenue continues to grow. And they even mentioned that cloud revenue could grow even faster if they had more infrastructure. And the only thing stopping them is that AI infrastructure. That's a money making, right? So their operating income on cloud grew nearly 100%. It was 11% last year. It grew to 20%. So operating income, that cloud business is becoming even more profitable at a faster rate than kind of your than the revenue growth, and that gets me pretty excited. So as a Google investor, I want to say I think Street is eventually 2 years from now is be like, that was a no-brainer. But right now, I don't know what's happening here. For an AI investor, it continues to give that strong momentum growth. I mean, CapEx increase. If CapEx is increasing, they show that they're actually making money. There's no, I feel like there's, at least for these cloud service providers, you no longer have that question of, is this a return on investment? We are seeing that's the answer is yes. Now it's like, how much more can we build? So CapEx was great. And then Sundar also mentioned that the next era is this agentic AI solution. They talked about it, that they're using it internally already with some of their software engineers, and they believe 2026 is going to be kind of the era where that kind of joins into the consumer space. So it's a, I mean, I think it's just a very early indication. We're still kind of like in the search of AI. I don't think AI ends at search. You just showed that great video of robotics. You have robotics, you have the healthcare, you have autonomous vehicles, every type of autonomous vehicle. So the list of AI growth is still there, and I think Google is right there to take a lot of the opportunities.
I think what you said about the ROI on CapEx being there is also very important. I mean, we're spending so much money as a society on CapEx, but you're seeing that in a return on investment, whether it's in Meta advertising or Google Cloud operating margins. And so the idea that they raised it from 75 to 85 billion just seems like investors shouldn't be upset about that, which maybe is the quote unquote red flag on their margins. But if they're going to get an ROI, it's not the worst thing in the world.
Yeah, I don't know if it's me, but your camera just went out.
Yeah, it's definitely not you. It's me.
Oh, okay.
NVIDIA, why do you think it's making a little bit of a run right here to 175? Is it because of what Google said, or you think it's kind of just algos today randomly?
It could be what algos, but this week is, it's very, I always think I'm very bullish in the AI market, but after listening to earnings, listening to CEOs talk, I feel like I'm not bullish enough. I really do at some point feel like I'm not bullish enough. I mean, this week, I think we got that Stargate expansion with the Oracle. We had, and that just, it feels so long ago, but I think that was literally Monday. We had Elon talk about XAI building 500,000 Colossal 2 infrastructure. We had Google increased capital expenditure. We had TSMC a few weeks ago mentioned that AI demand is still like crazy. We had ServiceNow, a company many people probably don't look at, but ServiceNow is kind of a great indication of how enterprise is adopting with AI, and we saw them beat numbers. So we had a memory company called SK Hynix. It's not traded in the US, but it's a very big competitor in things like HBM. It's crucial to AI accelerators. They just reported earnings 2 days ago, and they mentioned HBM market is healthy. The demand for AI continues to grow dramatically, and they're expected
they
to
had
increase
record EPS and revenue growth as well.
Yep, exactly. So it's I was also just listening to Sam Altman. He was at a podcast with I like to listen to the CEOs talk because sometimes in random podcasts they share little tidbits of things that maybe they don't share in important conferences. But he was just at a podcast with Theo Von, the comedian, and he mentions that he believes data centers are going to start to take up a good portion of overall real estate in the world because he believes and it's like I don't take that to a truth value. I kind of like try to find the bearish sentiment and the ultimate bullish sentiment and try to find at least the middle ground. And even the middle ground is still pretty insane for the amount of AI semiconductor compute that you need. And kind of these cloud service providers, I think, are companies like Google, companies like NVIDIA, like Broadcom, are going to definitely benefit dramatically throughout this era. Now, one warning, I don't believe the era will always be a straight line. So there's always going to be a hiccup somewhere along the lines, but I think that like 5-6 year trajectory is still very, very much on a very uptrend.
AMD, is that pumping based on kind of what Lisa Su said, or is that just following NVIDIA today?
I think very much just the overall sentiment. I mean, I honestly, maybe if you can, I haven't heard what Lisa Su mentioned recently.
She was just saying, like, I mean, it's kind of the same corporate stuff. We're bullish on AI, semiconductor. I mean, it's kind of what Jensen said at the Olin conference as well, you know?
Yeah. So I think, I think it's just, there is a little bit of excitement, I think, in the semiconductor market right now. But I think in the long term, this excitement is definitely granted.
Okay, so Google crushes, SK Hynix crushed, AMD, NVIDIA continuing to have good sentiment. Tesla, would you buy the dip from 335 to 313 here?
I don't. It's right now I'm in a very. I don't know if I'm just. I went very heavy, luckily, during the dip, the big dip that we saw in April. That is crazy seeing how much a portfolio can grow in just a month or two.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's kind of giving me as an investor maybe a cost bias caution where it's like, I don't have to buy every dip just yet. I'm extremely happy with how this year-to-date portfolio has done. Let me not chase everything that dips right now. So I think that's my mentality. I don't think it's a
you want to protect more capital right now versus
yes. So right now I feel like I went very aggressive during that April stuff. Now I feel like it's time for me to be a little bit more conservative and like really hunt any hunger on really value dips. And while it might be a nice dip, it's not something I would be chasing for Tesla. But some great news. We saw more expansions. We saw kind of the rumors that they're going into California pretty soon. Probably that's a big deal. You also had kind of that bullish sentiment that Elon mentions that by the end of this year, he expects somewhere around 50% of the population to have some form of robotaxi available around their area. So long-term thesis, I think, is still there for Tesla and the robotics market.
Okay. Next question. Before I ask that, guys, Jose's YouTube right there. You can check it out. And please make sure to subscribe to his YouTube. Also, his newsletter, What the Chip Happened. I am putting that in the chat, so you can make sure to subscribe to that as well.
Thank you.
And you can check out that newsletter. Intel, is this just like an absolute mess? And are they going to get acquired, or is there a future for this company?
I think there's a future for this company. This was the craziest earnings I've heard in a long time. Intel has always been a turnaround story. That's been the thesis about this company. But I think this earnings was the first earnings we see some massive changes happening by top management. Let me just pull up my notes really quick so I can say exactly what we saw here. Give me one quick second.
While Jose is doing that, of course, Robinhood hits 105 because he's on the stream. And when he
Oh
leaves and
man.
Robinhood goes to 101, I will take all the blame for it. So it is what
Yeah.
it is.
So so Intel, I mean, they were what the new CEO, this is his second quarter, and he kind of throws shade at the previous CEO and the previous management, saying that they expanded too quickly in manufacturing fabs without really seeing the demand. So what he wants to do is pretty much no more blank checks. They stopped production of a fab in Poland, in Germany. They are slowing down the pace of their plants here in United States, in Ohio. They are kind of removing a plant in Costa Rica and moving it to I forget the actual. They're Vietnam and Malaysia. So they're really reducing a lot of the future construction. Future construction was expected to be around $50 billion. It dropped down to about $35 billion because they are kind of taking this approach. They had over 100,000 employees. He wants to bring it down to 75,000 by the end of the year. That is insane. He cut down management by 50% and management layers, which I thought was a great thing, because if you have a lot of manager positions or kind of hierarchies, whenever you want to talk to your manager and you talk about your project, you usually say one good thing and one bad thing, and you kind of try to correlate it. Eventually, you stop getting out of all the bad things, and somehow by the time you get to the CEO, you only get good things, and that's something that kind of created maybe some slowdown there. So I really like the changes. I think this is the quarter that 3 years from now we see this was the quarter that either made or broke Intel. I like the changes. I think these are the drastic changes that need to happen. Unfortunately, in the semiconductor market, those changes don't happen overnight. And the number of employees can drop down in a quarter. The kind of reduction of capex can happen in a quarter or two. But the actual changes within the architecture of the semiconductor, within the kind of mentality of your customers and work culture, that takes a few years to change. So I think right now Intel will be dead money for at least a year or two until we really start to see those changes. But I wouldn't bet against the new CEO. He seems like he's coming here guns blazing.
So you have faith in management, but you think AMD and NVIDIA are just better opportunities right now?
Yeah, definitely. I think if you're looking for like a 5-year opportunity, you don't mind maybe the 4 years being pretty slow, and then the last year be the year that kind of does some monster returns. I'm not saying it's a guarantee for Intel, but with this management, I feel like that would be the story. It'll be like the first few years will be pretty quiet until we really see it. And if you really see those changes make the big impact that they could, this one would be a multi-bagger. I mean, $100 billion for this type of company, market cap is probably less than 90, maybe closer to 90 right now. If they do turn around, it will be, but it's not going to happen overnight. It's not even going to happen by the end of this year, maybe not even by the end of next year.
Gotcha. A couple rapid fire. Jose Navitas, any new thoughts on this one?
I mean, a lot of momentum here. I think I talked about it earlier when I came in Monday with that I had a position. I don't have a position anymore on this one. It did a nice run up of like from 6 to 9 in just a few days. So I'm out of it. I believe there's long-term opportunity, especially with the power solutions and all this AI play. They do have earnings, I think, next week. If this one does drop down back to the 6 after earnings, I wouldn't mind picking back up either again.
Okay, so you're trading it. I mean, like. It is. There's a little bit of a cult following on this one, but you're thinking the volatility is better for trading versus like holding long term.
Yeah, definitely. And I think eventually I might like that long-term opportunity. I think that long-term opportunity or partnership with NVIDIA, it's something that might take a few more quarters than what the market expects.
Gotcha. Any quick thoughts on LiDAR, which announced an NVIDIA partnership yesterday, or is this something that people should ignore?
I think for traders, it might be exciting. I mean, you kind of get that momentum. You actually see it like crazy. I don't think I haven't read it. I haven't read the thing, so no real thoughts. On a top level overview, I would say be careful. Things like this, pump it up for a few days, and then it could be. Again, I haven't read the report, but just on general, with certain companies like this, it's more like I'm using NVIDIA's technology. That means we're partnered, but it's not like you're really gaining anything out of it. You're just paying NVIDIA for the products that they sell to anybody. I can go buy an NVIDIA GPU and say I'm partnered with NVIDIA with my technology for my streams.
Dude, I should do that. I should get an NVIDIA laptop and say AK Media announces partner. Dude, that would be a good idea. ASML, is this thing dead money for the next year as well?
TSMC is expanding, right? I mean, you have TSMC expanding, increasing capital expenditure. I think there's a lot of changes happening with semiconductor manufacturing. While it might be dead money, I think it's a little bit more alive than Intel, if that makes sense. I expect a little bit more movement of ASML. I believe there's opportunity in the equipment players. I talked about it in the past. I'm not a fan of like the big equipment players. I'm looking at those small players because I'm more of like that growth style investor.
Still bullish.
Oh yeah, still own it. This is my biggest non-semiconductor play in my portfolio. If you were to erase all my semiconductor companies, this would be my #1 position.
Okay, and last question for you. Broadcom, is that a result of Google's CapEx increase for why this stock is getting low as well?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Broadcom is the one that helps Google designs the TPUs for Google. Google increasing their AI infrastructure expense is very bullish for Broadcom. So I don't own this one. I feel like it would kind of trade very similar to NVIDIA. But I think this one has outperformed maybe NVIDIA through year to date. So very good. I feel like they're at least follow the same trend. So I'd rather own only one, but I could see the opportunity of why investors like Broadcom right now. And they're winning. Supposedly they're winning a lot of customers for those ASIC chips. So I think maybe OpenAI might be a potential customer of theirs. And we have some other big companies as well.
Okay. Actual last question for you. Nebius, any thoughts on their earnings next week?
I don't think Nebius is actually earnings next week. I talked to Neil, and this was, I think, earnings are a lot further than next week. Yeah, I think a lot of calendars and data have it wrong because of some changes when this was a previous company. So they're kind of looking at old data. I don't think Nebius is next week. Nebius is one that's also heavy on my watch list. I think that one is on the top of my watch list as an actual position to build up. If I see it kind of go into the 40s, I wouldn't mind building a position in Nebius.
All right, there you go. Jose, thank you for coming onto the stream and giving us a little Robinhood pump and educating us.
Appreciate it. Thank you for this for having me here.
Yeah, thank you. What the Chip Happened, that is his newsletter. Please make sure to subscribe. By the way, Jose, what do you speak a different language other than English?
Yeah, Spanish. Spanish was my first language.
Okay, so you can like speak really good Spanish.
I think over time it's broken down. Now it's Spanglish, but I can definitely hold my own if I go to a different country.
All right, because people in the chat said your Spanish is probably better than my Hindi, and that's probably accurate. That's love it, Jose. Thank you. We will see you next week.
Take care.
Later. All right, folks. NVIDIA, she's trying. She's really trying for 175. She got close. 174.72. Hoodie, nice little 2% run on the day. Palantir as well has not hit 160 since that initial. I think, what was it, 9:50 a.m. Hit on 160. So about 20 minutes after the market opened. But it's close, 159.25. And then AMD just below 165, or 167, 166 right here. It did crack 167.50 this morning. Lyft is introducing a credit program that customers can use if they have their Tesla for driving on Lyft. The automaker would give you $1,000 credit as well as $1,000 cash from the ride-hailing company. Interesting. Okay, so Lyft and Tesla, kind of a little bit of a partnership there. Lyft is down 1%, has not really moved much this week. Uber also flat as well. Uber now red, but Tesla trying to hold on to some green, 312.71 on Tesla. I mean, my kind of, again, thoughts on Tesla is 280 to 350. It's range bound. And so far that's kind of holding up. I mean, it got to 300 yesterday, was not able to go below 300. I think it's a little too greedy to ask for Tesla to go into the low 200s. Like, I really vehemently disagree with people that say it's going to go to the low 200s. Like, even if you're right about the valuation supporting a 175 price, I don't think, even with the deteriorating earnings, Tesla's going to get there. I just don't think that's going to happen. I think 280 is around, maybe 275 is max pain. So after those earnings, if the worst we got was 300.4, I mean, any level of qualitative news like Robotaxis expanding, I think could get it higher. And that's probably why it's up today, 312.79 on Tesla. Hoodie back at 105. Hoodie is back at 105. Dude, I don't know what we're going to see on earnings. I mean, I think it'll be good. I think it's either 120 or like 95 or flat. I mean, that's kind of my prediction. It's either going to make a big move or it's going to get a dip around 10% to 95, or it's going to be flat. But I don't think there's going to be anything way more dramatic than like less than 95. I don't think it's going to be crazy like 125, 130. But that would be kind of my prediction on how that one plays out. The reasoning for Tesla not going under 200 is because Elon has said everything you could possibly say publicly to hurt this stock, whether it's America Party or Epstein or yada, yada. And like the momentum on AI as an industry, as a sector, is leading to massive amounts of buying pressure on all these AI names, NVIDIA, AMD, Palantir, etc. Tesla is one of those AI names. Now, the problem is Tesla's not showing any earnings growth to support being part of the AI ecosystem, but they are showing progress in AI. So the question now for investors becomes, okay, I know this company is innovating in AI. I can see Robotaxi, I can see FSD, I can see Optimus, yada, yada, even if it's not growing like crazy, but I don't see the actual revenue or EPS growth. So what is a fair price to pay for a stock, for a company that I know, or at least I have a good hunch in believing will be a leader in physical AI? And I think based on the price action I've seen this year, that's 280 to 350. I think going above 350 is too much euphoria. I think going below 280 is way too much fear. And that's kind of why I decided buying it. I was like, all right, this is the range, because I can't be greedy enough to say I want 200, and I can't be greedy enough to also say that that it's going to go to like 500, or cautious enough to say it's going to go to 500 and I need to like buy at those levels versus buying here. I think this is the range. The question is just how it plays out. 150 in 2 months. Dude, I disagree. Either I'm going to be wrong or I'm going to be right about this, but I really don't think this thing goes anywhere below that 250 range. I mean, I think 250 is my max pain target on Tesla. Robinhood, by the way, 105.40. She's trying to make a run to 106 here. I think there's too many qualitative elements to Tesla. Even though they will have horrible earnings. I 100% agree with that. They will probably have Elon on the call saying horrible things about the earnings and like, not being energetic, but I still think there's too much of a, not even a cult following, but just too much of a algorithmic understanding of where Tesla will be in regards to AI. And that is why they're not going to let this stock go down. And again, if it was trading on numbers, this thing would be at like $75, right? Like there's no reason it should be at $1 trillion, but everyone believes in that future potential, which is why I think they pull it forward. It's FOMO with Tesla because the product range that is coming up is so great. I think dude, if Tesla were to get anywhere near 350, 360, the FOMO on Tesla, I think is FOMO that's bigger on. I don't think there's any other stock that has more FOMO than Tesla, because when Tesla runs, she runs, and everyone, I don't care who you are, starts to feel, man, can I really bet against Elon? Can I really bet against these cars? That like all these arguments start coming up, and then people end up buying, institutions end up buying, and then they get disappointed because Elon says some stupid shit. The stock tanks. But I think for that reason, it is not something that's going to get hit as bad as people think. Okay, one of the reasons Palantir could be running right here is Chad just posted this. Apparently, Lear, which is a public company, on their earnings call to mention Palantir. I'm going to play the video right here. And it looks like they had some good things to say about it. And that could also be giving Palantir some momentum.
Partnership with Palantir. Over the past 2.5 years, we have leveraged Palantir's Foundry, AIP, and large language models to build robust real-time data management solutions. Adoption has been strong, with more than 11,000 users driving over 175 active use cases across our organization. A key area of impact has been the work on the tariff response. Once new tariffs were enacted, our teams quickly developed a fully automated tariff data management system. This system enabled us to provide our customers with real-time documentation, speeding up the invoicing process while providing insight into our greatest mitigation opportunities. Beyond back office improvements, Foundry has delivered significant value to our manufacturing operations. Foundry supports dynamic line balancing, optimizing throughput and efficiency on the shop floor in our just-in-time seating plans.
So the reason this is so important is because, the fact that the CEO is spending this much time on the earnings call talking about their partnership with Palantir means that he wants Wall Street to know that they're partnered with Palantir, right? Because like it almost sounds like he's reading an advertisement for Palantir. He's like describing Foundry inside of their business, but like you kind of have to advertise the AI partner you're working with if you want Wall Street to think that you are embracing AI. And I think that's why Palantir, not only the stock is getting momentum, but also the earnings are going to inflect as more and more companies are probably inbounding saying, hey, we need an AI partner that we can show our shareholders that we are serious about AI with. And that ends up being Palantir. So it seems like Lear did that on their earnings call. This company, stocks up 8% year to date. They are an American company that manufactures automotive seating and electrical systems. Automotive seating and electrical systems. I believe they were at AIPCon a while ago. I think like at one of the second or third AIPCons. But you're going to get a lot more companies that want to show off how they are embracing the world of AI. Okay, Palantir right there trying to get back to 160. Hoodie 105.36. I mean, Hood might be running up a little bit into earnings as well. Did Grab go green? Grab is green, 535 on Grab. NVIDIA, 174.28 as well. PFAS, thank you for the 100 South African rands. Hit my weekly portfolio goal. Thanks for all your knowledge and dedication. Hit the like button. Thank you, PFAS, for the super chat. Appreciate it. Harry Wild as well. Thank you for the $10 super chat. Appreciate you being here. Jamie, yeah, thanks for the $5 super chat. Any thoughts on Yeti building a position? Sounds enticing. I have zero thoughts on Yeti. I have not watched the Dumb Money podcast on Yeti yet. We looked at the brand the other day, and I saw the water bottles and outdoor gear. I guess they're seeing some social arbitrage in regards to TikTok and how much people are talking about Yeti, but I have not dived that deep yet. ASTS, by the way, still down about 7% after that offering that they did yesterday as well. But thank you, everybody, for the super chats. Really appreciate it. And thank you all for being here. Palantir really making this Friday an exciting one. And then Hoodie, let me check 106 resistance. I mean, if she's going for it, that would be fun to see as well. 106 resistance on Hood is 27,000 shares. 27,000. AMD also. Nice little run right here. And then NVIDIA trying to break 175. The ASTS offering was a $500 million convertible note due in 2032. I don't have the coupon on the note. I'll try to find that, but it is a convertible. And yeah, it's basically them saying, hey, we need to raise some cash to do whatever we need to do. And so that's what you got with ASTS. Getting a few Trump quotes here still. So I told you guys that he was talking about that rebate for Americans. That quote is still going around. People are saying that he actually used the word stimulus, which would be interesting if they actually roll out stimulus checks. I don't think that's going to happen. European framework trade deal with the United States could happen this weekend, EU officials told the media. EU officials and diplomats said a European framework for a trade deal with the United States could happen by this weekend. I think that's definitely happening, dude. I think before August 1st, we get it. BlackRock's head of crypto leaves BlackRock to join Joe Lubin's Ethereum treasury company. Wow, that's actually a big move for SBET. BlackRock's head of crypto going to SBET. Huh. That is rather interesting. See, the one thing is, who the hell is BlackRock's head of crypto? This is what I mean about Tom Lee and BM&R. You need someone with a brand. And like, I don't know who BlackRock's head of crypto is. I don't know if you guys know, but I don't even know who Joe Lubin. I mean, I barely know that. Like Tom Lee is just a different brand, bro. It's a different brand. And I think that matters when it comes to getting people to get excited about the name, but still really bullish because it means these Ethereum treasuries are attracting a lot of talent that are, you know, more excited to be there than be stuck at a place like BlackRock, which is always nice to see. We barely know you and your brand. That's fair. That is fair. Tesla, is she moving? 314 on Tessie. She's moving as well. 2.9. Dude, I really think there's too much momentum in this stock. That's why I ended up buying it. I'm like, and you're going to buy some stocks a little higher than normal. You're going to have to DCA like it is what it is. I do not think this stock sees the low 200s. Like, I really do not think that happens. I don't care how bad the earnings are. There is too many investors that are looking forward to the future. If it was going to see the low 200s, it would have happened by now. Remember, the only time it saw the low 200s was when everything was falling in the market. It's not like Tesla independently got to 220 back in April. Everything tanked. It wasn't a Tesla thing. So I think for that to happen again, you would need to have egregious earnings on Tesla. Well, we've already had 2 quarters of egregious earnings on Tesla. So at some point, the market's about perception. And the perception is that they will eventually figure it out. And I think that will happen. 26 million volume on Palantir. Wow. Yeah, you're right. That is, dude, the average volume is 83 million. So, I mean, it's done basically a fourth of the volumes within an hour, which is pretty aggressive. The PE on Palantir now is 696. You're paying 696 times for the earnings. It's expensive. It's expensive, but it is a unicorn. I mean, if we get a decent market pullback, that could get us there. Yeah, but a market pullback could get anything down, right? If the market stays this strong, it's hard to get down there. That's also my point. It's like that guy who wrote up a Robinhood short thesis the other day, and he kept tagging me in it on Twitter. He's like, "Amit, you got to read my short thesis." And then I read it, and I was like, "Well, if the market pulls back, Robinhood will fall." And I'm just like, I don't think that's the best short thesis. Like you could say that about any stock in the market. Obviously, Robinhood's super high beta, so it's going to fall. But like, you got when I think of a short thesis, I think of like a stock independently can collapse against the market because there's something so bad about it. And I've yet to see that on Palantir or Robinhood. What is that like major thesis? The only way is if the entire market takes a dip, and I don't know if we're going to easily see that. Yes, Robinhood did add H-bar today. Steve's actually been talking about this one. He likes this coin. That could also be one of the reasons Robinhood's pumping a little bit. H-bar and some of this new crypto is being added to the platform. Okay, Trump's exact quote was, "We're thinking about a rebate. We've been talking about it. We have so much money coming in from the tariffs. A rebate for folks under a certain income might be nice." That makes no sense to me. That makes no sense. I think there is no world in which Trump starts sending out checks to people based on tariffs. And if he does, it's like a PR thing because we got debt to pay off. Like, how are we going to, like, that would just, I feel like wouldn't that also be inflationary, bro? Like, wouldn't that, like, dude, you think Jay Powell's not cutting rates right now? Jay Powell starts seeing some stimulus checks. Yeah, Jay Powell's, he's not cutting rates for the next 5 years if he sees that happening. Can I get a rebate on the used car I just bought my daughter? Sounds like socialism. He did send the first COVID checks, but again, COVID was different. COVID, the whole world people thought was collapsing. So it's like you needed something. I mean, the tariff revenue should just go back to paying our debt. Like, look, if the tariff revenue actually doesn't lead to inflation and it leads to more growth, the number one thing, and by the way, Trump has said this before. Trump has even said we should get rid of the sovereign wealth fund idea to pay down our debt. He said that when he was meeting with the Qatari officials 2 months ago. I think he's just saying it to say it. I don't think he's serious about sending Americans checks. Also, how much would you send them? It's got to be minimum like $250 to $500 if you're like you're not going to send people $20, right? So there'll be a lot of details that have to make sense on this. Or what else? Joe Lubin knows more about Ethereum than Tom Lee. Yeah, that's fair. But again, how many people know Joe Lubin? Tom Lee does not know that much about Ethereum compared to all these Ethereum people that you guys are mentioning in the chat. But I don't know any of the people you're mentioning in the chat. And I would bet a lot of people don't. But a lot of people know Tom Lee. Like when it comes to marketing and getting people to buy BMNR or SBET, I think it's about the reason, again, people buy MicroStrategy is because in large part of Saylor. There's a lot of Bitcoin treasury companies. MSTR is the one that gets the capital. Now, obviously, MSTR has the most Bitcoin, but you also have Saylor who's out there preaching the thesis, who's like legitimately orange pilling people. Is Joe Lubin going to be ETH pilling people is my question. Because Tom Lee's been ETH pilling a lot of folks over the past month. And also, when you try to get a message out there in the world, people have to want to listen to you. So when Tom Lee speaks, people they might not agree with everything he says, but they want to listen and hear his perspective. That's very it's very special, right? Like when Saylor talks, people want to at least hear what he says. But some of these other guys in Ethereum, like, do people really want to listen to them and even have a chance to hear their thesis? And if not, you just might not have that many people excited to then buy the stock. Yeah, see, he's the co-founder of Ethereum, but like that's one thing. Who cares? Who cares? Like, okay, cool. He's the co-founder of Ethereum. Who seriously? Who cares, bro? Like, okay, he's a co-founder of Ethereum. Why should he? Why? First of all, why don't we know him by now? He's not done a great job promoting himself. And then B, even if he is the co-founder of Ethereum, is he going to be exciting to listen to talk about Ethereum? I like those are the questions when it comes to actually getting people, I think, to form a cult around RSI. Because you're going to need, dude, there's going to be a lot of dilution in SBET and BMNR. Remember, SBET, people forget. People are only seeing it at these levels if you just got into it. Look at it over the past 6 months. It was at $124. They diluted by 69 million shares, literally 69 million. I don't know if they were being funny with that, and then it came back down to $8, and now it's at 21. There will be so much dilution in the Ethereum treasuries that you need someone who can constantly weather people through the storm of dealing with the fact that they're getting diluted. And you need to be able to be convincing enough and charismatic enough for people to care about that. I'm not even hating on the guy. I just like, who cares that he's the Ethereum co-founder? Like, I don't care. Is he interesting to listen to? I've never seen a clip of this guy talk. Like, he's not out there. He's not preaching the message. So what's so exciting about him? Tesla right here, it hit 315 for a second. Now it's at 314.17. Yeah, Michael Saylor did not co-found Bitcoin. Exactly. And again, he could be a great speaker. I'm just saying, like, if he's going to be the guy to get everyone to buy a leveraged Ethereum treasury, you got to be out there day and night. And the one thing I know about Tom Lee is he is out there day and night. I mean, he does like 50 media appearances a week to get the message out there. If Alex Karp was the co-founder of Ethereum, you would be glazing. Well, Alex Karp can communicate. He gets people to listen. It makes people want to care. So there you go. All right, let's get an update on Apple. We got Apple earnings next week. Let's see if they can deliver and we can get any level of excitement going into their Q2.
Shuttling in a bunch of iPhones from India and elsewhere to get ahead of those tariffs. Well, they can't do that now. So the question becomes, how bad was that tariff impact? Was it in that range of 900 million? And then looking forward, will it get worse? That was a huge line of questioning on the last earnings call was, what does the rest of the year look like beyond that June quarter? Should be getting some more data about that. And then let's talk about artificial intelligence, because we've been talking so much about how Apple has been lagging behind. And in the last quarter, we've seen Meta make these huge moves, spending enormous amounts of money in compensation for various executives and so forth to run this AI superintelligence group that they have going on over there. Where does Apple fit in that picture? Does Tim Cook feel like he needs to spend more? Or is he happy with the team he has in place for this sort of mulligan they're going through right now with artificial intelligence? And then finally, we're going to look at the guidance, because this is the September quarter that they're going to be guiding towards. And the last couple of weeks of that includes the new iPhone. So if the guidance looks really strong on the revenue side, if they start, the high single digits or something like that, that could be an indication, guys, that iPhone prices are about to go up, partly to mitigate tariffs, partly because they might just be due for a price increase. You're seeing Samsung raise prices and others. So there's a good chance there that we might see some. Why not jump in?
What's your gut tell you when it comes to AI? Like where the company stands on this? What you think? Are they going to double down on the stance they've had to this point? You think they'll plow more money into it?
Every indication we've gotten so far is they're just going to keep going steady as she goes. Do it in a less capital intensive way. I mean, we just saw Google the other day say we're going to spend even more in CapEx next week. By the way, Microsoft reports we're going to get our first hint at how much they're going to be spending. Apple is spending just a fraction of that on their artificial intelligence. They're losing executives to Meta and others. They still have the John Giannandrea who is running artificial intelligence, but he's lost some responsibility since then. Are they confident? If they say nothing, that means they're confident in their team. They're going to be able to deliver on this new version of Siri after kind of missing it this year.
Although there were those reports earlier about them potentially teaming up.
Yeah. Perplexity and so forth.
Perplexity,
Yeah.
somebody outside. There have been others who have suggested they should buy Perplexity.
Jim Cramer's all about that. Cramer's all
talked
about that.
this all the time.
Yeah.
I guess the interesting thing will be whether they follow the flavor of the day from Wall Street.
Right.
Because Wall Street goes through these feelings where they want people to spend a whole lot more on CapEx.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
then it wasn't too long ago where Apple was the GOAT because they weren't spending on CapEx.
Exactly. There was a small period there last year. It's like, oh, you guys, you're spending too much. Where's the return on this investment coming? And now that's just totally gone out the window.
It's like the win.
I think investors would be happy if Apple put any money into something other than buybacks. But I don't know if we're going to get that this quarter. Tesla, by the way, 314.50. She broke 315, trying to get back above that. Robinhood, 104.71. Palantir, 158.65. SoFi has been flat. They've got earnings on Tuesday. So this is going to be a big one for SoFi. And we'll see what they can put up. That one being relatively flat. Grab right here, 534, and then Googs at 192. And that's pretty much what we got. Nigel Gray, thank you for becoming a channel member. Appreciate it. Thank you for being here. I put a pump, dump, or flat poll on Apple. 41% of you said dump in the chat. I don't think it dumps, but I don't think it necessarily pumps. I would say flat. I would say it's just not really going to do as much as a lot of the bulls would think it could do. DoorDash right here is at all-time highs. Wow. Look at that. Wow. Last time DoorDash got here was 2021. Dude, getting back to these levels now with a lot healthier earnings to justify it. That's how crazy 2021 was, bro. DoorDash IPO'd in what, 2020? They got to 250 in 2021 for no reason, just because everything was artificially inflated. And now they're inching back to these levels because of actual earnings growth. Fun fact, the CEO of DoorDash is on the board of Meta. So the CEO of DoorDash is very good friends with Zuckerberg as well. Palantir right here, 158.84. You know another stat I found about? 20% of the S&P 500, the stat is no, I think it's let me just confirm the stat right here. But the stat is every CEO, sorry, no, it's all right. 20% of executives in the S&P 500, if on a publicly traded company, used to be a prior executive at one of two companies, GE and Procter Gamble. GE and Procter Gamble. It's a pretty wild stat, right? 20% of all of the executives that are currently at a S&P 500 public company used to work at GE or Procter & Gamble. It goes to show you how corporate a lot of the broader market is. Robinhood back to 105, and how much, it's kind of the corporate ladder that you climb to be able to get to an executive role at a public company. And a lot of it comes from, being at those former companies. The beautiful thing about some of these outliers like a Robinhood or a Palantir or a Tesla is that a lot of these are run by founders, or at least Sue, AMD, right, NVIDIA. And when they're run by founders, you start to see some really astronomical gains compared to the executives that come from GE and Procter & Gamble. By the way, how are those stocks doing? GM didn't have the best results. GM right here, 52, fell from about 55 the other day. Procter & Gamble, PG, that stock at 157. That stock year to date is down 5%, but you do get a 2.6% dividend. So that's nice. And then GE is up about 1% today at 270. Yeah, it's GE. I was just looking at GM because they had earnings, but GE and Procter & Gamble are the two companies. GE used to have like 10,000 executives. One point that Jeff Walton made on the podcast yesterday about MicroStrategy, and I've heard a Sailor make this point many times as well, MSTR 403 right here, is what is the point of the concept of giving a dividend? It's a hell of an argument, right? When you give a dividend, you're essentially admitting to your shareholders, we don't know what to do with this money, and so we're giving it back to you. And as a result, not only are you going to get taxed on that dividend, But we as a company are basically saying we don't know how to use this money to grow. And Michael Saylor's entire thesis is that means the company has a toxic balance sheet and they've given up on growth if they have to reward you by giving a 3% yield just to keep you interested in the stock. Because most of these dividend names don't tend to grow. So the only thing you're yielding is 3% a year. Inflation's at 2.7%. So like, are you even beating the cost of capital? Whereas, you know, if those companies were to say, hey, we're not going to give a $10 billion dividend, we're going to make a $10 billion investment in Bitcoin. I mean, it's hard to argue with how that could recapitalize the excitement of the shareholder base and bring more energy to the stock. S&P 500 right here, 635.79, trying to break 636 again, as it did yesterday. Yeah, and you have the tax, and you have a tax on a dividend. Like that's why it's like even Google giving out this like 50-cent dividend, Meta giving out 25 cents. It's like, what's the point, bro? Like, I'd rather like if you own Google shares, do you really care about a 50-cent dividend that you have to pay tax on? I'd rather Google take that money and do something better than give you a 50-cent dividend. This is why when all these, you know, when people say, oh, when is Robinhood or Palantir, Nvidia or Tesla giving a dividend? It's like, dude, you wouldn't want them to give a dividend. You would want them to put that money to use in some other way because you care about your capital growing, not just getting a 2 or 3% yield off a company that doesn't know what to do with the money. And that's why they're giving it back to you. Robinhood right here, 105.24. That is also green. Some people want the cash income. Yeah. Well, this was another point that he brought up on the channel yesterday. There's a lot of people that are closer to retirement or you have pension funds, right? They want the fixed income that a dividend provides you. And that's how you got into the conversation of what MicroStrategy is doing with all these new preferred equities, because there's fixed income that's way better than a Coca-Cola dividend. And that's guaranteed because of the way that the financial instruments are set up. But it's a massive market. It's a multi-$100 trillion market in fixed income. And a lot of that, he believes Bitcoin is going to be, or MicroStrategy is going to be going after with these preferred instruments on Bitcoin. Tesla right here, 315. Tesla back to 315. 300 yesterday, 315 today. Still below 335 from Monday. But you got Tesla trying to make a bit of a comeback. Apple gives the dividend to keep their share price up. They know what it's doing. Yeah, so Apple does the same thing with buybacks, right? Like that's the most egregious example of a company that is just like misused capital. Apple has bought back almost $780 billion of stock over the past decade. If they even invested like 10% of that, 5% of that into maybe building out an AI suite of products before AI became the biggest thing in the world, who knows where their market cap would be? And who knows how much shareholders would be rewarding them even further. But that is not what has happened with Apple. Sachin says a high PE company, if it decides to issue a dividend, will get their valuation cut in half or 1/4. People buy growth because they bet on growth of investment back in businesses with ROI and multiples. That is correct. And shout out to Sachin. I mean, AMD, he's been pretty public about this one for the past 8 months now. It has worked out. It has worked out. Like, imagine if Lisa Su, when the stock was at 70, was like, hey, we're going to give a dividend to our investors. It's like, no, dude, like the stock would still be at 70. You need to get the investor base to think that there is a long-term thesis on a name, pull forward that growth, and then have the PEs eventually be grown into. This is what we're kind of seeing happen with Palantir. They're still in the growing into phase of that part of the process, but they've been heavily rewarded with a $370 billion market cap because people believe in their growth. And then when you actually put up the growth, like AMD has done or like NVIDIA has done, to justify pulling forward the multiple, you get an even higher multiple if people think you can keep growing. And it's just one of the most exciting reasons why people invest in growth stocks. A lot of people think when people invest in growth stocks, they're just like, they don't know what they're doing and they're just like buying into a story. And it's like, yes, they're buying into a story, but if you actually have the growth to justify that story, I mean, we saw what happened with Robinhood this year. It gets really exciting. Capital compounds capital is another thing I've learned in the market. Like when people see something that's running, I mean, let's Open Door, right? The only reason this thing pumped, which I think is down on the day, is because capital was attracted to capital that was going up. Unfortunately, this was in something that I think is like that serious of a company. But it will find money. That's why, people say, oh, Grab has 4 billion shares. It's not going to be able to find capital. It's like, no, dude. If a company puts up the earnings growth, liquidity in the public markets to the tune of hundreds of trillions of dollars will find undervalued opportunities. It just needs the catalyst. That's all it does. Once it sees the catalyst, then the liquidity becomes pretty deep because there are so few opportunities of companies that are actually growing. Grab's growing 22% year over year. And if they can continue that for the next 10 years, and I think they're going to grow more than that simply because of regional consolidation, you will have capital that will find that opportunity. But they've got to put up the growth to see if it gets there. GME, is that green? GME, GameStop, 23.36. That's flat. Sujin says, I would not be surprised to see open go below $1.50. Yeah, I mean, if they do the reverse split, I think that could definitely hurt them. We got to see if that ends up playing out. I make over $2,000 of my Meta dividend in my Roth IRA and I buy other stocks. Yeah, I mean, look, using the dividend income to then reinvest it is totally fine. It's just, I do think a lot of investors wonder how that money could be utilized in a different place. The fun thing about Zuckerberg is he gets a $700 million check every quarter because of the amount of shares he has times the dividend. It's pretty incredible. It's pretty freaking incredible. Yeah, 82. That's the meme. 82. I don't even mean to pick on the open door community. I think it's just so, I just think someone putting out a price target, that's never how I've done it. Like when I build communities, it's tried to be reasonable. It's tried to be rational. It's tried to really care about the quality of analysis. It's tried to get other people and get their perspectives. And that's how you build a community. And then, if it works out, then you all get to enjoy it together because there was something real there. With Open Door, it just feels like bullshit. That's all it feels like. It feels like absolute nonsense and some random hedge fund manager touting $82, inviting people to join his private stock picking group, and then deleting the tweet where he says that because it obviously sounds like a pump and dump and the SEC might take a little bit of a notice. It just feels like garbage. That's what it feels like. And unfortunately, you have a lot of attracted to it. So I don't know how Open Door plays out, but we're going to have to see if there's anything serious there. Here's an update right here on what Trump said about Powell and also what he's talking about when it comes to trade.
Well, that's what I thought was
this notion about a deal with trade between the U.S. and the EU. He put it at 50-50 and maybe a little bit less.
Yes, Carl, that's what I thought was the biggest headline from here, too, given that we know talks with the EU are ongoing. They're talking very frequently every day and trying really hard to make that deal by August 1st. First, he said 50-50. Then he said it might be a little bit less than that. And he also used phrasing that I thought was very interesting. He said the EU might, quote, have to buy down their tariffs. And then he spoke about how much Japan is investing in the U.S., that $550 billion. That's what led them to that 15% tariff. So as we've been talking about this week, 15% seems like the floor, and it seems like it has to come with some level of investment. We haven't heard officials in Brussels yet talking about what that investment might look like, what they're willing to do. But the president seems to be saying here that's what he needs to see in order to reach some sort of a deal.
What stood out to me is that he didn't bash Powell. He did not call him a numbskull. He did not insult him. He did not go after the building costs. I mean, he said that we had a very good meeting. And on interest rates, he said Powell congratulated him and said the very strong economy. The country is doing very well, which actually all makes sense. But then he said maybe that'll lead him to lower interest rates next week. And I don't think that's going to happen. But Megan, maybe that visit actually softened things.
I think that's so interesting. It definitely seemed like it. Even yesterday, as the visit was ongoing, yes, there was the disagreement at the very start over whether to include the cost of the third building. But by the time he was taking questions from reporters at the construction site, the president was saying then that he didn't think it seemed necessary to fire the Fed chair. And as you said, here he's saying that Powell congratulated him on how well things were going, said the country was doing well. And Trump says He took that to mean that maybe Powell is willing to soon lower interest rates. He didn't say Powell said he was there. But you're right. I think a lot of people thought that that yesterday's big show at the Fed was going to make things worse. It was going to escalate things further. The president might look at things that he didn't like and then say, maybe this is cause for firing. But clearly it went the opposite direction. And that's what the markets are taking out of that.
Yeah, the dollar comments also were notable to me. I didn't hear the first question, but it seemed like it was something like you get concerned about the weaker dollar because the dollar had a really rough first half. It's down 10% for the year. And his response is, I think, something that, investors would expect, which is, yes, we want a strong dollar, but he's not worried because a weaker dollar is actually very helpful when it comes to growth and when it comes to earnings. And that's been the story. I think it's part of why the market's been so enthusiastic and celebratory lately is the weaker dollar does translate into better earnings. And yes, maybe there's some concerns about an unwind of U.S. exceptionalism, but ultimately, we've had enough commentary from pros saying U.S. is still where it's at.
I thought that was a fascinating exchange. It was a very long answer from the president, and he actually took some follow-ups on the dollar as well. He was saying it doesn't sound good, but you make a hell of a lot more money with a weaker dollar. When you have a strong dollar, you can't sell anything. And he was acknowledging that he can't come out and say he wants a weaker dollar. He even said, oh, you see a headline, the president wants a weak dollar. He's saying, no, that's not what I want. A strong dollar always sounds better. But then he went on to talk about all the benefits of a weak dollar. He also talked about the fights that he's had with Japan and China in the first term about when their currency has weakened, and talk about China being a currency manipulator back then. So saying, of course, I don't want that, but at the same time, he doesn't hate when dollar, he says, doesn't get weak, but weaker could be a good thing.
Everybody secretly wants a weaker currency, but a stable currency. I think Trump includes. Yes. Megan, thank you. Megan Cassell.
All right. So that's what we got with the Trump updates. Pounds right here, 159.29. Robinhood, 105.14. Tessie, 315. It hit 316, folks. And then NVIDIA just chilling below 174 bucks. All right, folks. I think that is pretty much it for today. We'll be back on the close. We'll have Steve join us. Nothing too wild happening. Hopefully, we just end out the week strong. Nothing too crazy throughout the rest of the day. S&P basically at all-time highs. If we can keep that, that'd be awesome. Tesla getting back to 320 would be awesome. Tesla 316. Palantir, a 160 close would be really cool. I think we're going to get it because we haven't touched 160 in the past hour after we hit it. And I think she'll be back, especially because she got over resistance. And then Robinhood above 105 would also be nice to see. Next week is going to be a massive week for earnings. We've got PayPal, SoFi, Spotify, UPS, PG, Starbucks, Visa, Mondelez, Microsoft, Meta, Hood, Grab, eBay, MasterCard, Apple, Amazon, Coinbase, Reddit, MicroStrategy, Cloudflare, Roku, First Solar. I mean, next week is going to be one of those weeks where it's going to be a lot. Wingstop, Etsy, Altria Group. Just got a lot of stuff next week. And so it'll be a long week for us to cover everything, but we will try to go through everything we've got. I think we will have Palantir Weekly today. I know we haven't had it in 4 weeks. I think if we don't have a Palantir Weekly today, I might just do Palantir Weekly myself at this point. But I think everyone should be able to join. Arnie's back from traveling. And yes, 11 p.m. tonight, we should have Palantir Weekly. Got a lot of stuff to talk about. And then we'll have the market close. And we'll have Steve on the market close as well. And we'll go from there. All right. Word of the day is, I don't know how to say this, Stelliferous. Having or abounding with stars. The photographer used long exposure to reveal a breathtakingly stelliferous cosmos. Growing up in downtown, Mia had never seen how stelliferous the sky was until her first camping trip. Okay. Stelliferous. Well, I think we can say Palantir is being very stelliferous today. Abounding with the stars high up in the sky. It's just pretty incredible, dude. It's pretty incredible. This company has changed so many lives in so many different ways. And it is continuing the momentum. And, it's more, I say this all the time, but it's more than the gains. It's not just the gains. It is the relationships and community that the stock has been able to get so many people to come together around. And, their continued execution is continuing to be rewarded by the market, which is incredible to see as well. All right, that is it. Grab is next week, by the way. For those that are seeing their brokerages say it's not next week, go to the company's website. It's July 30th. I know some of the brokerages have it wrong, but it will be next week. It'll be the same day as Robinhood, which is going to be a pretty wild day. So Robinhood, Palantir. Palantir is going to be August 4th. We already had Tesla, and then we'll have NVIDIA August 27th. And we'll go from there. All right, that's it for me, folks. Thank you for being here. Palantir 159, NVIDIA 173.33, Tesla 317, Hoodie 104.97. Grab right here at 539, getting a little bit of a green candle. Google 193, SoFi 21.24, AMD 165, S&P 635, and then Palantir 159.11 on the day. I'll be back on the market close. We'll have Steve, and hopefully we can see 160 as we get towards the end of the day. All right. Thank you, everybody. I'll see you guys later on the market close. Bye, everyone.